Chapter 285. Although Shen Mange was not a cultivator, her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds under Jiang Tian's guidance. She had already reached the initial transcendent state. When this punch smashed down, it was truly like Mount Tai pressing down, and it crushed down an expanse of space while violent gales whistled, causing sand and rocks in the surroundings to fly into the air. Kaboom! The gorilla man couldn't dodge in time and was sent flying backward. He spat out a mouthful of blood and shook his dizzy head. Hua Xia is a vicious bitch. However, his fighting spirit had only increased. He was known as the Raging Gorilla Man in the assassin world. The more angry he was, the more powerful he became. Go to hell! A strange green light flashed in his eyes. He raised his arms and roared at the sky. In a blink, his body grew to 3 meters tall. He looked like a demon god standing between heaven and earth. His muscles bulged like a dragon, bursting out of his shirt and shoes. His stretchy pants turned into a pair of shorts. Arr! With a loud roar, he rushed toward Shen Mange in large strides. He stomped on the ground, causing the ground to crack and dust to rise into the air. It was as if there was an earthquake. Shen Mange's face didn't change at all. She pulled out a sword that was engraved with strange talisman inscriptions. This was the flame gold sword that Jiang Tian had obtained from Hong Tian Zhao all those years ago. Moreover, it had been refined and modified by Jiang Tian. It could release scorching sword light and sword energy, increasing one's battle prowess tenfold. Shen Mange held the sword upside down and rushed toward the gorilla man. She ran faster and faster. In the end, she leapt up and stabbed out with her sword. It was like an antelope hanging its horn, a wondrous and natural technique. It was also like a white steed flashing through a crack, disappearing in a flash. The surging and sharp sword qi directly pierced through his skin, which was as hard as cowhide. Then, it actually pierced through his chest. The sword pierced through his chest. The ace of the Dark Knight Spectre, ranked 8th on the Asian Assassin rankings, ranked 23rd on the World Assassin rankings, Raging Ape, was dead. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Ruan Kun was dumbfounded, his face filled with disbelief. According to the information, Shen Mange was only a martial artist at the level of internal strength, but she was able to release a sword qi that was more than 3 meters long. The dazzling sword qi was incomparably sharp. Her swordsmanship was so brilliant that it was as if she had been immersed in swordsmanship for decades. The ape that couldn't even be killed by bullets was pierced through the chest by her sword. A delicate girl? She was just Jiang Tian's maid, and her name wasn't even on the Grandmaster God list in Hua Xia? This was like the biggest joke in the world. In a moment of panic, the ghost kick had already swept out with a white ape bone whip, which coiled around his neck like a poisonous snake. Ha! Ruan Kun let out a roar as he tugged at the white ape bone whip with both hands, trying to break free. Ghost kick dashed forward like an arrow and kicked out 3 times in a row. The shadows of the kicks merged together and landed on Ruan Kun's chest. Ruan Kun's sternum caved in. He flew out with blood spurting out of his mouth and died. The assassins fell to the ground. The remaining 2 saw that the situation was hopeless and immediately chose to escape. Where are you going? The ghost kick became more and more courageous as he fought. With a roar, he swept out his whip toward the 2 men. Clang! Just as the 2 men were scared out of their wits, the crisp sound of metal colliding was suddenly heard. Suddenly, a sexy and beautiful figure appeared in the courtyard like a ghost. Her fingers seemed to be shining with a strange luster as she easily caught the white ape bone whip. Mediterranean golden scorpion. We're saved. The Jiang family is doomed this time. Fanatical worship appeared on the faces of the assassins. Their eyes were burning as if they had seen a god. The Mediterranean golden scorpion, one of the 7 giants of the Great Circle, was much stronger than them. Her arrival instantly boosted the confidence of the assassins. Ah, martial artists from Hua Xia? How interesting, but in my eyes, you're just trash. The golden scorpion smiled seductively. However, a cold light suddenly flashed in her blue eyes. She clenched her right hand and snapped the whip in half. She broke the white ape bone whip. The ghost kick was shocked. He could feel the powerful energy coming from the golden scorpion. The bone whip had been refined by Master Kong. If she could break it, she must be very powerful. She is the Mediterranean golden scorpion. Shen Mange was also taken aback. The Mediterranean golden scorpion, like Lin Zhenyu, was one of the giants of the Great Circle. She was a metal element supernatural power user and was as powerful as a transcendent grandmaster. However, the Ghost Kick and Shen Mange were only mildly surprised. In the next moment, their fighting spirit soared. The Ghost Kick's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He straightened his back and shouted with a powerful voice. I am the Ghost Kick, Mr. Jiang's servant. I am here to protect the Jiang family. I will kill anyone who dares to step into the Jiang family's home. Shen Mange, Mr. Jiang's zither servant. I am here to protect the Jiang family. I will kill anyone who dares to step into the Jiang family's home. Shen Mange also stepped forward and scolded in a deep voice. Hee, interesting. The golden scorpion walked gracefully in her high heels. The hem of her dress opened, revealing her fair thighs. She looked like a socialite attending a fancy ball. Her every movement was full of seductive charm. Her red lips parted slightly, and her voice was full of magnetism and charm. Mr. Jiang is really a wonderful person. He slaughtered his way through Huaxia in a bloody and brutal manner, and yet so many people are willing to risk their lives for him. We are indebted to Master Kong. We will protect the Jiang family until the last drop of our blood. The Ghost Kick's eyes flashed with determination. He charged toward the golden scorpion and kicked her 3 times in the face. Shen Mange also stepped forward with her sword. A sharp blade aura shot out and went straight for the golden scorpion's lower body. Very well. If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. The golden scorpion smiled proudly. She did not dodge at all and slashed with her right hand. Her finger immediately turned into a thin and sharp blade that was as thin as a cicada's wing and slashed at the Ghost Kick's leg. The wind on the Ghost Kick's leg was immediately cut open. Blood bloomed in the air as the blade cut deep into the bone. The golden scorpion strode forward. Her fists shone with a strange metallic luster and hit the Ghost Kick's chest with a bang. The Ghost Kick screamed and spat out blood. She twisted her waist in the air and did a somersault before landing on the ground. Clang, clang, clang. She was so fast. Shen Mange's blade aura had just cut her legs. Clang, clang. There was a deafening sound. The blade aura passed by and her legs shone with a metallic luster. Sparks flew and the sound was sonorous, but it did not leave any scars on her legs. This? So powerful! She seems to be much stronger than the raging ape. The Ghost Kick and Shen Mange gasped. This woman's body was so strong. It was probably harder than a steel plate. You have a good eye. I don't mind helping you explain. The golden scorpion strolled leisurely with a lazy expression. She completely treated the Jiang family's villa as her own garden. Her grainy, hoarse voice rang out. Her tone was full of ridicule and unscrupulousness. Paranormals are also graded from weak to strong. D is an ordinary person with a strong body, such as those Olympic champions. CBA is only a beginner paranormal. The raging ape you killed was only a B-class paranormal. The mighty elephant Tyson in Southeast Asia was only an A-class paranormal. I am an S-class paranormal, which is a super paranormal. I've killed several of your Huaxiao martial Dao masters. How about it? Are you scared? Scared? That's funny. Master Kang's disciples never know how to write the word scared. The Ghost Kick's leg was bleeding, but his fighting spirit was surging. He swallowed the blood in his throat and roared like a tiger. He rushed out and poured his true chi into the bone whip. The bone whip suddenly became as straight as a spear and pierced the golden scorpion's chest. Shen Mange also jumped out with her sword. A sharp golden blade aura rolled toward the golden scorpion's head. You don't know what's good for you. The corner of the golden scorpion's mouth curved into a mocking smile. She met the bone whip with her palm and rushed forward to avoid the golden blade aura. Crack, crack, crack. In the deafening explosion, the bone whip shattered like a firecracker. Finally, the golden scorpion's palm imprinted on the ghost kick's chest. The ghost kick flew out again. His sternum collapsed and blood spurted out of his mouth like an arrow. "Senior Ghost!" Shen Mange screamed and held the ghost kick. She saw that he was dying. His face was pale and his pupils were dilated. She was afraid that he would not be able to hold on. "Don't worry about me. Stop the switch." The ghost kick struggled to get up. Blood kept oozing out of his mouth, but he ignored the bloody wound. He staggered toward the golden scorpion like a drunkard and muttered, "I'm the ghost kick, Master Kang's servant. I'm ordered to protect the Jiang family. Anyone who dares to take a step forward will be killed without mercy." "Ha, what a tough guy." The golden scorpion was slightly moved. As one of the 7 giants of the Great Circle, she had run rampant all over the world. She had seen many so-called strong people who would rationally choose to abandon their dignity and save their lives in the face of the threat of death. But the ghost kick at this moment was really amazing. "Kill!" Shen Mange shouted loudly. She rushed out and stabbed with her sword. It was extremely fierce. She only attacked and did not defend. She was completely fighting with her life. "Cute little girl, I actually don't want to kill you, but you seem to want to die." The golden scorpion reached out and grabbed the flaming gold sword. She twisted it and made a screeching sound. "Let go." Shen Mange tried to grab the sword, but she only felt that the sword was stuck in a huge rock. She could not pull it out at all. "But since you want to die, you can die too." The golden scorpion smiled coldly. Her beautiful blue eyes flashed with killing intent. Then she used her fingers as a knife and slashed toward Shen Mange's neck. Shen Mange quickly dropped the sword and retreated, but she still could not avoid it. In the tragic scream, the sharp golden finger knife cut through her protective upstanding chi. Blood splashed. Her chest was broken, revealing her white sternum. The ghost kick attacked again. The golden scorpion was annoyed. She crushed the flaming gold sword and then grabbed the ghost kick's throat. She lifted him up and gnashed her teeth. "Old man, let's see how hard your bones are." "Senior Ghost!" Shen Mange was covered in blood. She screamed and attacked again. The golden scorpion kicked her away. Crack! Shen Mange fell heavily to the ground. Her right arm was broken and the wound was torn. Blood dripped down. She spat out blood and gasped in pain. She was dizzy, but she still stood up. Her hair was disheveled and her body was covered in blood. Like a demon, she used the last of her strength and struggled to rush toward the golden scorpion. She shouted, "I, Shen Mange, Master Kang's zither attendant, am ordered to guard the Jiang family. Anyone who dares to step in will be killed without mercy." Bang! Shen Mange was kicked away by the golden scorpion again. She stood up again and again, but she was beaten down by the golden scorpion again and again. In the end, Shen Mange was covered in blood and her clothes were torn. She fell to the ground like a bloody gourd. She struggled to get up, but she could not stand up again. "I, Shen Mange, Master Kang's zither attendant, am ordered to guard the Jiang family." She lay on the ground. Her breath was weak, and a string of bloody tears slid down her temples and into her hair. Chapter 286. Go to hell! Golden Scorpion threw Ghost Kick to the ground and approached Shen Mange. A long golden saber condensed in her palm and chopped down at Shen Mange. Under the golden saber light, Shen Mange looked calm and murmured weakly, "Master Kong, I can't do it. I've let you down." Just as she was in despair, a finger light suddenly pierced through the void and hit the golden saber light. The golden saber light suddenly collapsed. Golden Scorpion was shocked and took a step back. She looked at the door in horror. "Who is it?" "Mr. Jiang, you're back." Shen Mange turned her head with difficulty and saw Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing coming in hand. She couldn't help crying with joy. "Mange, an old ghost, you've worked hard." Jiang Tian helped her up and hit her and Ghost Kick's wounds with several healing spells in succession. He also fed each of them a medicinal pill. What powerful medical skills! Under Golden Scorpion's incredulous gaze, Shen Mange and Old Ghost's injuries healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. If she hadn't hurt them herself, she would have thought that she had never hurt them. And the finger light just now was also very powerful. He deserves to be the peerless master who killed Lin Zhenyu. Golden Scorpion was shocked. Without hesitation, she stomped on the ground and the ground collapsed. She shot out like a golden arrow. In fact, Golden Scorpion didn't have the courage to fight with Jiang Tian. She knew that Rattlesnake was intercepting Jiang Tian on the highway, so she attacked the Jiang family. She wanted to hold Jiang Tian's family hostage and threaten or lure Jiang Tian to the high seas so that it would be easier for her to kill him. But that golden finger light really scared her. That power was a bit too strong. At this moment, seeing that Jiang Tian was treating Shin Mange and Old Ghost's injuries, she didn't dare to stay. She took the opportunity to run away. Since Zhao Xueqing was born, she was like duckweed, alone and helpless. Only Jiang Tian loved her, and only the Jiang family gave her the warmth of a family. For more than a year, Shin Mange had been with her day and night and took care of her carefully. She was like a sister. Stop right there. At this moment, seeing the Jiang family in a mess with corpses piled up and Shin Mange seriously injured, she couldn't help but be angry. She couldn't hold it. And directly attacked Golden Scorpion with a shout. A strong and irresistible suction force came, and the Golden Scorpion, which had already leaped more than 10 meters away, was caught and fell to the ground. What a strong attraction force! Golden Scorpion was horrified. The moment her feet touched the ground, she let out a shout. Her strength sank, and the ground cracked and collapsed. Her feet sank more than an inch into the ground, and she ran again. Come here. Zhao Xueqing pulled. Golden Scorpion's feet were like plowshares, plowing 2 long marks on the ground. She flew up uncontrollably and fell at Zhao Xueqing's feet. Tell me, who is the financier behind Hidden Flower? I'll give you 3 seconds. I'll turn you into ashes. Zhao Xueqing's pure phoenix immortal body's aura rose steadily as she asked with a stern look in her eyes. According to the information, this seems to be Kong Teichu's wife. When did she become so powerful? Like a little white rabbit that had encountered a giant beast, Golden Scorpion retreated step by step with a look of horror, full of disbelief. While she was hesitating, Zhao Xueqing said coldly, 3 seconds are up. You can go to hell now. Zhao Xueqing's phoenix-like eyes blasted out 2 flames. She caught the flames and condensed them into a sword. With a swoosh, a 5-meter-long Li Fire Chi weapon slashed toward Golden Scorpion. You can't hurt me! Golden Scorpion roared. A Golden Scorpion phantom appeared in her body. It was as tall as half a person, its tail extended and swayed as it roared at the top of its lungs. However, the Li Fire Chi weapon could burn anything. With a high temperature of 10,000 degrees, it easily cut through the tall phantom and cut off one of Golden Scorpion's arms. Ah, it hurts. Golden Scorpion flew out and rolled on the ground in pain. She struggled and spasmed as she screamed. Interesting. Her blood is also golden. She's indeed an S-class arcanist. Zhao Xueqing blinked her beautiful eyes curiously. Then, her pretty face turned cold as if it was covered in frost. Tell me, who is the financier behind this? If you tell me, I'll leave you with an intact corpse. Don't kill me. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. It's Big Circle. It's 6th Master Fan from Big Circle who killed Jiang Tian because he killed Lin Zhenyu. Golden Scorpion knelt and begged for mercy. She no longer had her pride and strength. She was scared out of her wits and shivering like a little rabbit. As an S-class arcanist and one of the 7 giants of Big Circle, Golden Scorpion was considered a knowledgeable person. However, this was the first time she had seen such a powerful martial artist like Zhao Xueqing. She even felt that even if Lin Zhenyu came back to life, he would not be able to last more than 3 moves in front of Zhao Xueqing. So, it's Big Circle. Jiang Tian shook his head gently and sighed. What a reckless thing. Honey, do you need to ask anything else? Zhao Xueqing was not good at interrogation. She turned to look at Jiang Tian. At this time, her face was adorable and cute. She no longer looked as decisive as before. No need. Jiang Tian waved his hand. Shen Mange and Ghost Kick were badly injured. Fortunately, their meridians and acupoints were not damaged. After careful recuperation, their skills could still be restored. Then I won't ask. Zhao Xueqing nodded. She raised her hand and a leaf fire chi weapon slashed down from above. Boom! With a loud noise, a 20-centimeter wide and half-meter deep hole suddenly appeared on the ground from her feet to the golden scorpion. The leaf fire chi weapon slashed toward the golden scorpion. Didn't you say you would let me go? Golden scorpion was full of anger and unwillingness. She jumped up and tried to dodge the terrifying leaf fire chi weapon. However, compared to Qingya, she was too slow. Crack, crack. There was an ear-piercing sound. Shocking cracks appeared on the golden scorpion's metal-like body, covering her completely. Her head almost shattered, and she fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Humph! My husband said that we must eliminate all evil. We can't let the tiger go back to the mountain. Zhao Xueqing's soft voice sounded. It was a pity that Golden Scorpion could no longer hear it. Jiang Genqing, you are back. When Jiang Tian and Shen Mange walked in hand, the old master immediately led a group of people to welcome them. The old master held Jiang Tian and Shen Mange's hands tightly. He was so excited that his whole body trembled and he almost burst into tears. When the strong enemies attacked, the police could not stop them. However, when Jiang Tian and Shen Mange came back, they immediately turned the situation around. Grandpa Mum, Dad, I'm sorry to have frightened you. Jiang Tian glanced at everyone apologetically. Jiang Tian, don't feel guilty. People who are not envied are mediocre. If you want to become a peerless master and look down on the world, how can you not make enemies and not offend people? The old master had lived a long life and was open-minded. He comforted Jiang Tian earnestly. Jiang Tian picked up Jiang Weiner and wiped the tears on her face. He comforted her softly. Weiner, are you scared? I'm not scared. Why? Because Weiner knows that Uncle is a Superman, a great hero. We will be fine. Jiang Weiner said crisply. Her naive words made everyone laugh. The tense atmosphere was suddenly swept away. Yes, when they saw Jiang Tian come back, they were immediately relieved. What kind of master could be Jiang Tian's opponent? Zhang Wanqing pulled Zhao Xueqing and asked in a low voice, Qingya, do you also have cultivation? Zhao Xueqing nodded with a face full of joy. Good, that's great. Zhang Wanqing was ecstatic. Jiang Tian put Jiang Weiner in his aunt's arms. He glanced at everyone and said calmly, Don't worry, everyone. After tonight, everything will be fine. Jiang Tian, you must be careful. Yes, you must be careful. These bandits are very fierce. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian with concern. They were very worried. Now Jiang Tian was the pillar of the Jiang family. If something happened to Jiang Tian, the Jiang family would be finished. Brother, Hugo, I will take care of things here. Jiang Chao patted his chest. TSK, you go and change your pants first. You are wet. Jiang Tian's words hit Jiang Chao hard. Don't expose people's shortcomings. Don't hit people's faces. Can't you give me some face in front of so many people? Forget it, honey. You have not recovered yet. Leave everything to me. Zhao Xueqing said softly. Jiang Tian pondered for a moment and said, It is good for you to gain more experience, but let's fight side by side. Honey, with the villa as the central axis, I will be responsible for the left side. Yes, I will be responsible for the right side. Communicate with each other through divine sense. If anyone is in danger, the other one will come immediately. Yes, not a single one of them can escape. Competition. Whoever kills the most wins. The loser will wash and massage the loser's feet at night. Qingya looked at Jiang Tian provocatively. No problem. Anyway, I will wash and massage your feet whether I win or lose. Jiang Tian shrugged nonchalantly. While talking, the two of them went out of the Jiang family's villa and stood in the yard. They looked at each other and then spread their divine senses in all directions. There was a loud rumble. Their divine senses spread out in all directions like a rolling tide, sweeping across every street and skyscraper, into every neighborhood, supermarket, hotel, and even a few kilometers away. In an instant, half of Jinling City was covered. Boom! With a boom, a torrent of information flowed into Chinger's mind like a torrential river. It was the first time she had encountered such a situation. Her head hurt a little and her delicate body trembled slightly. Pass through the useless information and filter out the useful information of the powerful ones. The killer's aura is different from ordinary people, Jiang Tian said through divine sense. Understood, Chinger replied. Her divine sense suddenly expanded to a height of 100 meters. Like a movie lens from God's perspective, she looked down at the brightly lit Jinling city. Then, the buildings became faint and the aura of the powerful ones swayed in the air like flames. These must be the powerful ones. They should be mercenaries, Chinga murmured. In addition, she also saw some figures with obscure auras and hidden murderous intents. They were like venomous snakes waiting to strike. These were the killers. The nearest killers were actually hiding on the roof of a skyscraper less than half a kilometer away from the Jiang family's villa. Let's do it. Chinger stomped on the ground and the ground trembled slightly. She had already shot into the sky like an arrow, drawing a beautiful arc and attacking the skyscraper. In the air, her posture was beautiful and her speed was fast, like a divine phoenix spreading its wings. Chapter 287. Tisk, if I don't rebuild my body, I'm afraid I will be defeated by this powerful wife. Seeing Chinger's peerless beauty, Jiang Tian smiled with relief and also shot out. Chinger has become a fairy? The Jiang family was dumbfounded and dazzled. They couldn't believe it. He, my son's wife, how can she be bad? Zhang Wanqing smiled proudly and was very satisfied. What's that sound? On the rooftop of the building opposite the Jiang family's villa, a sniper in black tights was holding a sniper rifle. He was hiding in the dark night when he suddenly heard a gust of wind. He couldn't help but feel alarmed and raised his head in shock. Then he saw a shocking scene. Under the shadow of a full moon, a long-haired figure actually flew across the sky and descended from the sky like a goddess. Before the killer could dodge, Chinger's foot had already descended from the sky. With a boom, Chinger knelt on the ground with one knee. A deep pit appeared between her knee and foot. The cement ground cracked and collapsed, and the killer was instantly turned into a pile of meat paste. Her white clothes were clean and ethereal, but her petite body gave people a feeling that she was as majestic as a mountain. Chinger stood up, proudly raised her chin, and approached the remaining 4 killers. Congratulations, you've achieved the first kill. But I've already killed 2. Jiang Tian transmitted his voice to her through divine sense. The 4 gunmen shot in horror, and Chinger raised her hand and waved. Chi! With a sharp sound, an 8-meter-long Ignis Chi soldier swept across. The 4 killers were instantly cut in half. Flames rose into the sky, and their bodies were burned to ashes before they fell to the ground. 5, I've overtaken them. Chinger transmitted her voice with a hint of pride on her face. The feeling of flying is really good. Every time Zhao Xueqing jumped, she would rise 100 meters into the air. Like a big bird, she soared in the air. Every cell in her body was cheering and jumping. The 48,000 pores all over her body were greedily absorbing the overflowing spiritual energy of the world, turning it into true essence and bringing her endless battle strength. The shackles in her heart had been broken, and the immortal physique of the stainless Phoenix Maiden had completely awakened. She could now fully display the peerless might of this immortal physique. She could even float in the air for a long time, and she felt a sense of freedom from gravity. While flying in the air, the little lass put the Sennheiser earphones into her ears, picked a song, and played it on a loop. Then, Cloudpiercer's voice bombarded her eardrums, exploding in the depths of her mind. It also caused her burning battle intent to explode to the highest limit. Lose the watch and the coat. Drop the backpack and get rid of the TV and the computer. Lose the brain and lose the trouble. What is big and what is small, there are always people who disagree with everything. More hate than love. I just want to dance more and more crazy. Jump higher and higher, shake off the earth. My heart thumped wildly. In a flash, all worries are forgotten. I don't want it anymore. Wronged oneself for a second. Bang, bush, bang, bush. Accompanied by the high-spirited and resounding music, the muffled sounds of Chinger's feet stomping on the ground and her body tearing through the air rang out continuously. It was extremely shocking. Chinger was like Wonder Woman or Wasp Girl, leaping up and down between the buildings. Her speed was even faster than Jiang Tian's, almost breaking the sound barrier. She streaked across the air, leaving behind a series of indistinct afterimages, almost exceeding the limits of human vision. With the cover of the night, no one would stare at the sky for no reason. But even if someone saw it, they would think that it was a large bird flying across the sky or a landscape searchlight streaking across the sky. Chinger took a step in the air and flew several hundred meters away. Once she landed, her hands would be stained with blood. At this moment, she was no longer that weak and pitiful girl who couldn't even truss up a chicken. Instead, she was a peerless expert who could kill with each step. Her supreme beauty could stop time and stun the world. Rattlesnake, Vampire Count Anthony, Ruan Kuan, and Raging Ape have lost contact? In a 5-star hotel room, Greedy Wolf, Jean Taixin frowned as he looked at the explosive news on the dark web on the special computer screen. Jean Taixin was a Korean American. He used to be a marksmanship instructor in the U.S. Marine Corps. After retiring, he joined the U.S. Sky Eye Assassin Organization. He had a brilliant record and assassinated countless high-ranking political officials. He was ranked 6th on the global assassin ranking list. Who wouldn't be tempted by a hidden reward of $500 million? That was truly a sky-high price. It could be said that this was the first time in the history of global assassination. But what really tempted him was the target of this assassination, the young Wu Dao master from Huaxia, Kong Teichu. The words Wu Dao master were taboo in the world of assassins. But on the other hand, it was also a symbol of glory. To be able to kill a Wu Dao master was a supreme honor for an assassin. A brilliant record not only represented a generous reward, but also a soaring status and value. Jiang Ting, it was Kong Teichu. Others might not know, but Jean Taixin had studied the target's information in detail. This rising martial arts prodigy, a young Wu Dao master, was said to be at the peak. He had once killed the leader of the Big Circle, Lin Zhenyu, on Poyang Lake. A few days ago, he had suppressed the 8 strongest people in Southeast Asia and killed them at the peak of Mount Everest. Wang Chongyan was so furious that he came out of seclusion early. This prey was an extremely terrifying prey. Ruan Kuan, Raging Ape. You guys are too stupid. Jean Taixin chuckled, full of mockery. He knew that his target this time was a terrifying existence, so he had made ample preparations. He had bought a special sniper rifle, bullets, and a full set of equipment from a mysterious alchemist in Europe. The bullets were engraved with mysterious runes and made of special metal. They could penetrate armor, burn, and explode. They also had some black magic power and could even kill an Earl of the Blood Clan. Moreover, he was very patient. He planned to give himself half a year to kill Jiang Tian. Half a year. No matter how cunning a fox was, it would still reveal its flaws. It would not be able to dodge the hunting rifle of an experienced hunter. He would never choose to fight in close range like Anthony and Ruan Kuan. Close range was the style of a mercenary. Killing from a distance and retreating thousands of miles away to preserve their strength was the most rational and correct way for a real ace assassin. After killing Kong Teichu, he would become the #1 assassin on the Royal Assassin list. Moreover, there was a reward of $500 million. After that, he would buy a small island in the Pacific Ocean and bring his wife, who was teaching at the University of Pennsylvania, there. Just like Mrs. Bay, she would give birth to a football team for him. What a wonderful life! Thinking of this, Jean Taixin was full of fighting spirit and satisfaction. He walked to the window and observed the Yawang Group building with a high-powered tactical telescope. Would the target appear here? It seemed that the mercenaries of Blackwater were going to the Yawang Group building today. He seemed to value his family a lot. He should be there to rescue them. Are you looking for Kong Teichu? Suddenly, a soft but cold voice sounded behind him. The moment the voice sounded, Jean Taixuan's hair stood on end. The door was locked, and he had set up an alarm. The windows were closed, and the whole room was airtight. How could someone come in? Jin Taixien, who had never failed in his assassination with 103 CI, naturally understood what this meant. A person who could appear behind him silently was like a sudden clap of thunder, a fatal threat. Bang! He turned around and fired a shot at the illusory figure. With a silencer, the sound of the bullets being fired was not loud. Instead, it was especially dull. A woman. A very beautiful woman from Huaxia. Kang Teichu's wife. Moreover, she did not fall, she did not die. Seeing the person clearly, many thoughts flashed through Jin Taishuan's mind. He was shocked to see a shocking scene. Zhao Xueqing's slender fingers were holding a golden bullet. The bullet had been squeezed out of shape. Jin Taixien didn't even have the time to fire a second shot before a small, jade-white hand grabbed his throat. Crack! Jin Taishuan's neck was broken. Blood spurted out of his aorta, and his head hung down weakly. A red flame spurted out from her hand and enveloped him. The body was instantly burned red, and the bones and organs could be seen clearly. Then, it turned into ashes. The 18th one. Honey, I'm 2 ahead of you. Ching, patted the dust off her hands. Then, her figure flashed, and her delicate body suddenly became faintly discernible. She then disappeared from where she stood. The 17th one. However, I may overtake you. There are many monsters in the Medicine King group. There are more than a dozen of them. At this time, Jiang Tian had already appeared in the lobby of the Medicine King group's building. He was talking to Qinger through divine sense. He frowned. There were 3 mercenaries and assassins' bodies on the ground. However, there were more bodies of Huaxia's police officers. They were messily piled up, dripping with blood. It was a shocking sight. There were even bullet marks on the wall that made people's hearts palpitate. Monsters? Killing monsters? Honey, you're funny. Zhao Xueqing could not help but laugh. Then she said, I have 3 more here. I'll go over there and team up with you after I kill them. You're attacking the Medicine King group? You're asking for it? Jiang Tian smiled. He raised his hand and burned the bodies of the assassins into ashes. Outside the door, police sirens were wailing and lights were flashing. More than a dozen riot police cars surrounded the Medicine King group. Break in. Protect the Jiang family and the Medicine King group at all costs. We, the Huaxia police, will never compromise with terrorists. Secretary Yu was burning with anxiety. He personally took command of the operation and classified it as a serious terrorist attack. The provincial police department, the municipal bureau, and the armed police gathered together. Many anti-terrorist vanguards were dispatched. However, he was once again beaten to a pulp by his opponent. Don't come in, Secretary Yu. I'm back. Suddenly, a voice rang out in Secretary Yu's mind. Secretary Yu was stunned. Master Kong is back? Did you hear that? He asked in a daze. He's really back. Many police officers heaved a sigh of relief. How's the situation over there, Master Chiu? In the corridor outside the CEO's office on the top floor of the Medicine King group, Li Jinwei was covered in blood. He was wrapping the deep wound on his wrist with a bandage while panting into the walkie-talkie. Bodies were piled up at his feet. There were security guards and police officers of the Medicine King group, as well as 7 or 8 enemies. What he had experienced today was the most dangerous battle he had ever experienced in his life. 3 waves of assassins had attacked him. Chapter 288. Some of them directly charged in from the lobby on the first floor, brazenly assaulting the police and rushing upstairs. Some used parabolic guns to shoot from the opposite building and used ropes to slide in. Some wore winged suits and flew to the rooftop like bats, attacking from the rooftop corridor. One wave after another, the mercenaries were like locusts that could not be killed. They were all fully armed and carried heavy weapons. They could be considered a private army, and some of them were even espers. Under such circumstances, the police force was wiped out in less than 10 minutes. Don't worry, we won't die. Protect Miss Yi and Professor Huang well. Qiu Gong was 1 floor below in a room. He leaned against the wall and sat on the ground, panting heavily as he laughed boldly. His chest was shattered, and a piece of his shoulder was shattered. Blood kept oozing out of his mouth. This old fart, his bones are so tough. I shot him once, and he's still taking it head-on. At the end of the corridor, there were offices and bathrooms. 17 or 18 Blackwater mercenaries were scattered around, some with guns and some with cold weapons. The Blackwater mercenaries, also known as the Blackwater Security Consulting Company, were security guards in name, but their equipment was better than the regular American army. They had played an important role in the Iraq War and were known as the special forces outside the American government. The ones dispatched this time were the strongest elites of Blackwater, and all of them were famous on the mercenary list. Chiao Gong held the white ape bone knife in his right hand and a grenade in his left. He had taken it from the mercenaries and was prepared to die together with them if they rushed up. He was about to bleed dry. There were 3 gunshot wounds on his body, and the one on his shoulder was penetrated. He could not even lift his hand. Suddenly, there was a bang and dust flew. The walls on the left and right were blasted apart by miniature explosives. Without waiting for the dust to settle, 7 or 8 mercenaries rushed in from both sides. Chiao Gong wanted to pull the grenade, but there was a bang. Out of instinct, the mercenaries pulled the trigger, and bullets burst out. Chiao Gong's wrist holding the grenade was bleeding. He jumped to the side before the grenade could be pulled. At the same time, 8 crossbow spears were aimed at Chiao Gong's legs and fired randomly, the sound of sharp weapons piercing into flesh filling the air. Chiao Gong staggered back and leaned against a tree trunk behind him. His trousers were dripping with blood. He smiled tragically, showing the solemnity of an arrow at the end of its flight. He waved at the people in front of him and gritted his teeth. "If you have the guts, spar with me." Duke Chiao was unwilling to accept this. How could he be forced into a desperate situation by this group of trash who outnumbered him? This was a great humiliation. I have always admired the martial artists of Hua Xia. Behind the 8 people, there was a tall man with well-proportioned muscles. He was armed with loaded guns and looked handsome. There was a black cloth on his head, and he looked very capable and cool. He was a handsome foreign man with a gentlemanly demeanor, but he had a nickname that did not match his appearance: Satan. Chidon was the word for devil in the Bible. This man used to be the devil's chief instructor who was revered and worshipped by 2,500 people of the Delta Force. NATO's 3 armies called him the most powerful creature in the North American continent. Now, he was the chief consultant of the Blackwater mercenaries and the most powerful existence among them. "You, face the camera, admit defeat, and I will not kill you." Satan raised his gun. His Chinese was a bit shaky, but his smile was full of mockery. The martial artists of Hua Xia had brought him too much humiliation. He wanted to regain the dignity of the world's top mercenaries. "Bullshit!" Duke Chiao cursed. Satan roughly understood what bullshit meant. He sneered and aimed his gun at Duke Chiao's forehead. Duke Chiao straightened his neck and did not blink. He wanted to see how he would die with his own eyes. For a moment, he thought of Yi Gufeng, the heroes of Jiang Bei, his life of glory, and Jiang Tian. His heart was filled with sorrow. He was not someone who was afraid of death. If he could not see these familiar people in the future, he would not be able to let them go. It is inevitable for a general to die in battle. I have lived my life in vain. Unfortunately, Master Kong, I did not follow your orders to the last one. In the next life, I will still be your dog and create endless glory together. Duke Chiao raised his head and waited for death. There were 2 mercenaries guarding the door of the office. Suddenly, a sharp noise came up and the 2 men turned around. A shadow was already in front of them like a ghost. The 2 men were shocked and didn't have time to shoot. A sharp and cold light flashed across the air. The 2 mercenaries stood there blankly as their eyes gradually lost focus. A thin red line appeared from the top of their heads to their crotch. In the next moment, the red thread suddenly expanded, and with a crashing sound, the 2 bodies were split in half from the middle. Steaming internal organs spilled out onto the floor. A shadow flashed into the room like a ghost. A few wind blades slashed out in all directions. The wind blades came one after another, like a dragon of wind blades, without any gaps. The 7 mercenaries who had shot Duke Chiu fell to the ground, dead. Even their helmets and bulletproof vests were broken. Transcendent Grandmaster, Kong Tae-chu. Satan dodged the wind blades with extreme speed. He looked at Jiang Tian in fear. He had never thought that Jiang Tian would be able to attack him so quickly. Hee, you are not bad to be able to dodge my wind blades. Jiang Tian sneered. He didn't even lift his gun and shot out 8 wind blades. With a shrill scream, Satan was sent flying into the air by the wind blade. He crashed into the wall and slid down. His entire body was bleeding profusely, and even the specially made Desert Eagle made of pure gold had been cut in two. Hua Xia's martial arts is indeed powerful, Satan uttered these words. His eyes widened and his head tilted to one side. He was dead. Master Kong. Duke Chiu was taken aback. He leaned against the wall and laughed hysterically. Tears welled up in his eyes. He was in complete despair, but he suddenly saw hope. He saw Grandmaster Jiang descending from the sky like a god. The huge psychological gap made this unyielding martial artist unable to bear it. He wanted to cry to his heart's content. Duke Chiu, how does it feel to be in front of the gates of hell? Jiang Tian squatted down and removed the bullets and arrows from his loyal ally. He took out a bottle of black jade ointment and used it all in one go. I don't feel anything. From the day I stepped onto the martial arts path, I expected this day to come. Seeing Jiang Tian carefully treat his wounds, Duke Chiu's eyes were filled with tears. He was moved. He leaned against the wall and laughed. He lit a cigarette and said, I really have one foot in the door. 18 years later, I will still be a hero. He had spent his life killing. He had experienced life and death and was already numb to death. Live well. If you die, what will happen to your wife and child? Jiang Tian said with a smile. After treating his wounds and casting a few healing talismans, Jiang Tian once again charged upstairs. At the same time, Qing'er also rushed over and swept through the floors below. Screams filled the air as enemies fell one after another. The husband and wife fought side by side. It was almost a one-sided massacre. 10 minutes later, the two met in the CEO's office. Jiang Tian said with a smile, I killed 53. How many did you kill? 58. Remember to make breakfast tomorrow. Zhao Xueqing smiled proudly and pushed open the door of the CEO's office. Mr. Jiang is here. We are saved. Seeing Jiang Tian and his wife come in, Huang Zhihui, who was praying with a pale face, and all the middle and high-level executives cheered. Yi Ziwei, who had been trying hard to keep calm, could no longer hold it in. Her mind relaxed, and crystal-clear tears rolled down. Honey, there were 32 batches tonight. More than 100 mercenaries from different organizations fell together. This should be enough to shock most of the Dark World's elites, right? Standing side by side with Jiang Tian in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, Zhao Xueqing, who had calmed down, looked down at the bright night sky and smiled. These killers and mercenaries were all famous figures on the Imperial Assassin leaderboard. They were enough to shock the dark forces that coveted the Jiang family. No, it's not enough. Jiang Tian stood with his hands behind his back and shook his head slightly. A sharp murderous intent flashed in his eyes, and he said coldly, we still need a real tycoon. Kill him, and those forces will be shocked. Only then will they understand the real cost of offending the Jiang family. Who? Zhao Xueqing asked confusedly. The supervisor of this operation, one of the 7 tycoons of the Great Circle, the sun god Apollo. Jiang Tian said with a smile. Before he finished speaking, Jiang Tian's powerful divine sense was pushed to the limit, and it shot straight into the clouds like a raging sea before smashing down with a loud bang, pushing in all directions and completely enveloping Jinling City that had a population of a few million. Under the powerful divine sense of the soul-sculpting secret art, the vast Jinling City seemed to be transparent to Jiang Tian. Nothing could escape his divine sense. Found you. Jiang Tian's lips curled into a cold smile. His divine sense had already locked onto a ball of light that was as bright as the sun. It was extremely powerful and blazing. Jiang Tian pushed open the window and directly burst out, and instantly fell on the roof of a building more than 100 meters away. "Honey, let's go together," Qing'er shouted and quickly used her movement skill to follow. This, jumping off the building? No, she flew. Everyone was stunned. They had seen an unforgettable scene. Qing'er has also become a cultivator, and so powerful. Yi Ziwei was shocked. "Oh, Mrs. Jiang is a dragon among men. She is worthy of Jiang Tian. How can my daughter compare to her?" Seeing this, Huang Zhihui was shocked, but there was a burst of sadness in his heart. Yuhua Stone Park, late at night. It was pitch black, and there were few people around. The operation failed. More than 100 mercenaries, including Golden Scorpion, this Kong Teichu is so powerful. On the Yuhua Terrace, in the middle of the dense forest, a handsome blonde young man was holding a jade plate-like instrument with a dignified face. He was wearing a tuxedo, holding a walking stick, and wearing leather shoes made by an old Italian shoemaker, like an old gentleman. In his hand was an instrument with signs of life, made by an ancient magician from Western Europe. More than 100 tiny rubies were inlaid on it. When the target was still alive, the rubies would keep flashing. Once they stopped flashing, it meant that the target was dead. Just half an hour ago, the rubies stopped flashing. In the end, the entire jade plate-like instrument became dark and gloomy. The air is so thick. Is it going to rain? The weather is terrible. The handsome Apollo looked up at the sky and said gloomily. Suddenly, Apollo felt a chill. He looked up into the sky and frowned. What a powerful mind power. I didn't expect Hua Xia to have such terrifying mind power. I thought Hua Xia only knew martial arts. Kong Teichu is indeed extraordinary. But of all things, you shouldn't have provoked our great circle. However, in the next moment, Apollo chuckled. His eyes flashed with a scorching white light, like the sun's rays. His eyes pierced through the void and looked into the distance. A terrifying murderous aura rose from his body. He snorted. "Since you are here, I will kill you. I even saved the Great Circle 500 million in reward." Chapter 289. Dark clouds gathered in the sky above the city. The dark clouds shrouded the tall buildings, and the slightly cold winter rain sprinkled down with some ice particles. In the sky, several kilometers away, above the buildings, under the dark clouds that seemed to be close to the roofs, two black dots flew like lightning bolts, dragging two white tails made of rain and air. Their speed was so fast that it was suffocating, as if they could break through the sound barrier. Two people? The other flying person seems to be Kong Teichu's wife. Apollo's eyes flashed with golden light as he clicked his tongue in wonder. Hua Xia's Qinggong in martial arts is so powerful. This speed, this extraordinary time in the air, is comparable to Butterfly Lady, Black-Winged Ba-Tu, Wind Man, and other flying-type arcanists. Apollo opened a violin case at his feet, and inside it was a golden longbow. The longbow was engraved with complex runes and vine-like plant lines, as if it was an exquisite work of art made by a master craftsman. Just based on its appearance, even people who knew nothing about the world of cultivation would think that it was definitely not an ordinary item. However, it's a pity that you met me. Whatever spiritual power or flying ability, when you meet my Helios golden bow, you will all die. When Apollo drew the golden longbow in his hand, golden flames began to burn and condense on the bow. A flame arrow condensed from crimson flames appeared on the golden string of the golden bow. I will kill you and achieve a greater reputation than Lin Zhenyu, and become the #1 magnate in the circle. Like Ho-Yi shooting the sun, Apollo drew the bow to a full moon and released the bowstring. The flame arrow carried a rumbling sound as it pierced through the rain, evaporating white smoke as it shot into the sky. In the air, the flame arrow was getting closer and closer. Jiang Tian and Qing'e used their movement techniques, and like dragons playing with phoenixes, their bodies flipped up and down, dodging the flame arrow. Boom! The flame arrow missed, but 3 kilometers away, the top of a building was grazed by the flame arrow. Suddenly, the wall collapsed, and the top 3 floors exploded as if they were bombarded by a cannonball. Beside the Qinhuai River, which was only a few kilometers away from the Yuhua Stone Park, there was a vast manor that was brightly lit and filled with distinguished guests. Anyone who was familiar with the upper class of Jinling would know that this manor was overseen by a powerful figure who could shake Jinling and even the entire Su province. Jinling, Su Zhenlei. In the past few years that Su Zhenlei had been in seclusion, this manor had never been as lively as it was today. Only an old servant and Su Ruoqing were present. But at this moment, all the overlords in Jinling and even Su province were gathered there to congratulate Su Zhenlei. Because today, this peerless powerhouse who had suppressed Jinling for decades had finally come out of seclusion, and his cultivation technique had reached the large success stage. Father, you should have reached the peak of the transcendent state after 5 years of seclusion, right? Sitting down, Su Ruoqing raised her wine glass and toasted her father with a smile, but there was a trace of bitterness in the depths of her eyes. Now, Jiang Tian's forces had already taken control of Jinling, and he was also controlled by Jiang Tian's, heart bursting with joy, charm. He didn't even dare to mention his father's grand declaration of unifying Jinling on the day he broke out of seclusion. The peak of transcendent state? It's not that easy. An old man in his 60s was sitting on the armchair. He was wearing a purple silk training suit, and his silver hair was combed into a slick-back hairstyle. On his thumb was an antique imperial glass-type ring. He looked around with a smile, and his eyes were as sharp as a hawk's. He was indeed a formidable figure whose name had shaken Jinling for decades. Once you reach the transcendent state, you will be called a grandmaster. As for those who have reached the peak of the transcendent state, Hua Xia can only count them with 2 hands. They are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. For example, Lin Zhenyu of the Great Circle, Hua Qingtian of the Central Plains, Yi Wudao of the Jiangxi Province, Wu Yingxiong of the Southwest, and Li Tuofeng of the Northwest. Which one of them isn't a powerful existence? He shook his head a little regretfully and said, if I reach the peak of the transcendent state, I can sweep the entire Su province in minutes. I can even wrestle with Yi Wudao and take down Jiangxi and Zhonghai. Su Ruoqing wanted to say something but stopped. Her old father had been in seclusion for too long, and he didn't know that the world of martial arts had undergone earth-shaking changes. Li Tuofeng and Lin Zhenyu had both fallen in the Martial Arts Society convention last year. Su Zhenlei's face showed a hint of pride and said, however, I have reached the peak of the transcendent state during my seclusion this time. I can defeat ordinary internal force experts in one move. I think that Master Kong, whom you all have been talking about, is only at my level. Dad, Su Ruoqing's face was awkward. Jiang Tian could even kill Lin Zhenyu with one move. How could her father be as powerful as him? Ruoqing, you don't have to say it. I have already received the report. A sharp glint flashed in Su Zhenlei's eyes. He said coldly that Master Kong has defeated the Nie family and other forces. He has dominated Jinling, and even you have to be cautious. However, after I come out of seclusion, I will behead that Master Kong and conquer Jinling. He had reached the peak of the transcendent state and reached the peak of the transcendent state. He felt that no one in Hua Xia could stop him except for Hua Qingtian. As for Master Kong, he could kill him with one move. Dad, please don't. Su Ruoqing was about to tell her father about Jiang Tian's power. Suddenly, a loud boom came from afar. Then, the earth shook as if there was an earthquake. What is it? It's late at night. Why is there an explosion? Everyone rose to their feet and looked out of the window. Fear was written all over their faces, but they couldn't see anything clearly. However, Su Zhenlei had reached the peak of the transcendent state and his senses were far sharper than ordinary people. There is a fight between 2 powerful overlords. Su Zhenlei's face darkened. He walked out of the door and leaped onto the roof of the mansion. He looked toward the direction of the Yuhua Terrace. Su Ruoqing and many other experts also came up, looking at the 2 sides fighting with fear on their faces. I didn't hit him. Apollo, the god of sun, was taken aback. The next moment, rays of golden light rose from under his feet. His body grew taller and taller, reaching a height of dozens of meters in an instant. He floated in the air like a deity. By then, Jiang Tian and his wife had also reached the top of the Yuhua terrace. They were only a few hundred meters away from Apollo and they stood face to face. Jiang Tian said lazily, "Apollo, you are just a legend. Do you really think you are a deity? How dare you offend the Jiang family and cause trouble in Huaxia? You must be tired of living. Don't be so arrogant, you brat. I don't believe that I can't hit you." Apollo roared and pulled the bowstring to the fullest. A flaming arrow pierced through the air and pierced through the rain, leaving a trail of white steam in its wake. The flaming arrow covered the distance of a few hundred meters in a blink of an eye. It was as if the flaming arrow was still on the bowstring a moment ago, and the next moment, it was right in front of Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian didn't dodge at all, while Qing'er's pure phoenix immortal body's true essence rose steadily and soared into the sky. Suddenly, a hemispherical translucent golden shield appeared around the two of them. The flame-like brilliance flowed on the shield, looking extremely gorgeous. Qing'er and Jiang Tian were mentally connected. She knew that although Jiang Tian's cultivation method was powerful, his body was still mortal. However, she had the advantage of the immortal body's protective aura, which was much stronger than Jiang Tian's ability to withstand attacks. The tyrannical scarlet flame arrow was actually blocked by the barrier. Then, starting from the arrowhead, it was as if it was being devoured bit by bit. Sparks flew everywhere and shattered inch by inch until it was finally worn out. What is that? Qi cultivation into Qi shield. Su Zhen was horrified. How could there be a shield that could devour the flaming arrow? In the sky, Apollo couldn't believe it. He took a step back and shook his head. Impossible, how is this possible? What the hell is that? Many years ago, Apollo was besieged by the super soldiers of the United States of America's Blue Storm. Those super soldiers were equipped with the most advanced kinetic skeletons made of titanium alloy. They were all armed to the teeth and could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. However, Apollo only used 3 arrows to kill all the super soldiers. The titanium alloy armor even melted into liquid. Among the 7 tycoons of the Great Circle, Apollo was the most unconvinced of Lin Zhenyu's strength and thought that he could kill him with 1 arrow. However, since they were on the same side, they didn't have the chance to fight. This time, when Jiang Tian came, he was actually more excited than scared. He was determined to win. If he could kill Jiang Tian, who had killed Lin Zhenyu, he would be the most powerful fighter in the Hong sect. But now, the situation that was originally under his control suddenly changed. This made Apollo very angry. He raised the golden longbow in his hand again and pulled out a flame arrow. "I don't believe that this arrow can't pierce through you." The white light under his feet flickered as he shot up into the sky again. Amidst the drifting drizzle, he suddenly pulled open the golden longbow. The golden bowstring tightened and released again. 4 flame arrows condensed on the bowstring and shot out in unison. 4 flame arrows shot towards Jiang Tian and his wife, who were standing in the middle of the winter rain like lightning. Apollo's feet stepped on the golden light as he dashed around Jiang Tian and his wife. Since speed was the key, there was no reason for him to stop. Apollo leaned forward like a leopard and turned into a flash of light. With Jiang Tian and his wife as the center, he drew a circle of golden light. During this process, the bowstring buzzed and vibrated. One after another, the flame arrows were shot out in a concentrated manner. In the blink of an eye, he had fired 23 flaming arrows. These flaming arrows were more violent than the previous ones, but they were not hot at all. Unlike the previous flaming arrow, they were calm and steady. However, when these flaming arrows were 3 meters away from Jiang Tian, they suddenly heated up. The air around the flaming arrows was distorted and blurred. Drops of cold winter rain turned into puffs of green smoke as if they had been dropped into an invisible pot of hot oil. 23 flaming arrows came from all directions. They were getting closer and closer to Jiang Tian and his wife's protective light shield. 3 meters. 2 meters. 1 meter. After a meter, under Apollo's expectant gaze and his excited cry of "Explode!" they all exploded at the same time. These were not ordinary flaming arrows. They were explosive arrows. The sun's energy was concentrated and it only exploded at the last moment. Such explosive arrows could even vaporize special metals. They could even kill count-level members of the Blood Clan and Hua Xia's martial arts transcendent masters easily, not to mention 23 of them. I believe that not even a drop of blood or a wisp of ash will be left behind. Apollo roared happily in his heart. Then he cursed in frustration, "Fuck, I forgot to record this wonderful video." Chapter 290. The torrential winter rain fell 3 meters above the chi shield of the Phoenix Maiden immortal body. It was as if it was pulled by an invisible force and became slanted. If it moved a little closer, it would splash out. The chi shield of the Phoenix Maiden immortal body was like a transparent giant umbrella, blocking the bitter wind and rain outside. "My wife is so powerful. You left me far behind. I admire you." Jiang Tian seemed to have not realized the danger that was close at hand, and he made an exaggerated expression of wanting to cry but having no tears. It could be said that the power of the stainless phoenix fairy body was beyond Jiang Tian's imagination. The chi shield had already held on for a minute. Qing'e rolled her eyes at him, as if she found his flirty talk boring. When the 23 flame arrows exploded at the same time, Qing'e's pretty face slightly trembled. Her cherry lips slightly opened and she shouted, "Break!" Before the voice had even faded, the 23 flame arrows all strangely stopped in the air, unable to move an inch further. The still image was very strange. It still maintained a certain moment of the explosion process. The flame arrows were like bright red flowers blooming around the chi shield, trembling slightly and swaying. In fact, this image only lasted for less than a second. The next moment, the chi shield suddenly expanded, swelling and vibrating. Bang! The flame arrows were no slower than the previous ones and shot out like a fairy scattering flowers. Zhao Xueqing's shout of "break" seemed to be able to transcend the scope of space and time, rising hundreds of meters high in the sky. At the same time, it sounded like thunder in Su Zhenlei's sea of qi. Don't. Su Zhenlei felt as if his heart was being held by an invisible hand and began to beat violently like a war drum. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Feng Yi was awe-inspiring. This was a kind of spiritual pressure. Once used, it could suppress a transcendent grandmaster. Then Su Zhenlei saw a flame arrow explode after being knocked away by the chi shield. Su Zhenlei, who couldn't dodge in time, screamed and punched out like a cannonball. Boom! An earth-shattering sound came as Su Zhenlei was sent flying 7 or 8 meters away. A large part of the roof collapsed. "Oh, darling, it seems that we hurt the onlookers." Zhao Xueqing was so shocked that her face turned pale. She was very upset. Even though she had awakened her immortal physique and become a supreme beauty, the gentleness and kindness in her heart had never changed. "Don't worry, I won't die. I think it's Su Ruoqing's father," Jiang Tian said lightly. When Apollo detonated the flame arrow, he had used his psychic energy to control it. Now that the flame arrow had bounced back, it was a serious blow to his psychic energy and physical body. He fell to the ground like a silly quail whose wings had been broken and spat out a mouthful of blood. Apollo jumped to his feet, his whole body trembling with anger. "Kong Teichu, what's going on? Tell me, what is this?" "What is it? An idiot like you won't be able to understand this. A piece of trash like you wants to kill me? You're far from Lin Zhenyu's level." Jiang Tian sneered and said with disdain, "Since you've shot so many arrows, it should be my turn. I won't accept this. Go to hell." Apollo was burning with rage. He raised the Helios golden bow in his hand and started to draw an arrow with his right hand. A platinum-colored flame arrow appeared out of thin air. This arrow could kill even a half-step immortal state cultivator. On the roof of the mansion, Su Zhenlei was alarmed. This arrow was much more terrifying than the flame arrow earlier. Just the condensation and formation of the flame arrow was enough to crack the rocks under Apollo's feet inch by inch. Some of them even melted into boiling hot lava. Suddenly, everyone was shocked to see from the dense forest, A white beam of light shot up into the sky, illuminating half of the sky and tearing the thick curtain of night into many pieces. Then, the beam of light flashed and shot towards Jiang Tian. "Qing'e, let's work together. Unleash the flame arrow." Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and sent a telepathic message. The hobby. Telepathic messages were much faster than verbal messages. Qing'e had sensed Jiang Tian's intention the moment he had thought of it. Then her eyes flashed with golden light. She used the flame arrow of the phoenix eyes and a 5-meter-wide golden flame was condensed. Jiang Tian caught the flame and condensed it into a blade. With a sound, a 10-meter-long crescent-shaped flame arrow slashed down from the sky like a shooting star. Flame chi weapon? He's like an immortal. Su Zhenlei was shocked and his heart sank to the bottom. He couldn't even resist Qing'e's shout, let alone Jiang Tian's flame chi weapon. Only a half-step immortal state cultivator could unleash the true chi of the 5 elements. Once a martial artist entered the immortal state, he would be like an ant. At this moment, all the talk about challenging Jiang Tian and unifying the Jinling city, these lofty aspirations and hot-bloodedness disappeared faster than a pile of cow dung in winter. Is this Lady Jiang? She is indeed a peerless beauty. Only she is worthy of Grandmaster Jiang. Su Ruoqing looked up at the 2 figures in the sky. There was no jealousy in her eyes, only endless admiration. She only felt that they were like an immortal couple. This kind of beautiful thing always made people want to look at it more. The improper thoughts she had towards Jiang Tian that she had hidden in the bottom of her heart also collapsed and crumbled at this moment. Boom! The platinum-like flame arrow, which could pierce through a giant ship, was cut in half by the leaf fire chi weapon as if it was made of paper. Then the flame chi weapon came down violently. "You can't kill me." Apollo raised his bow to block the attack. At the same time, his body expanded with golden light. But it was useless. The golden bow and arrow flew out of Apollo's hand, and the protective golden light was useless. Amidst the gushing blood and a shrill scream, Apollo's right arm and shoulder were chopped off and fell to the ground. The Phoenix Goddess immortal body was one of the 12 immortal bodies in the cultivation world. The flame chi from this body could melt gold and iron. It could not burn anything. No matter how strong Apollo was, he was just immortal. How could he resist it? This was the terrifying power of the immaculate Phoenix Goddess immortal body. "You dare to kill me? I am Prince William, one of the 12 main gods of the Western Palace of Gods, Apollo." Seeing Jiang Tian coming closer, Apollo was terrified. He wanted to scare Jiang Tian away. "I'm so scared. My little heart can't take it anymore." Jiang Tian smirked. His finger light hit the air without any hesitation. Bang! Apollo's head exploded like a berry. Red and white matter sprayed all over the ground. Apollo, one of the 12 main gods of the Palace of Gods and one of the 7 giants of the Great Circle, was dead. When Su Zhenlei leaped over, he saw this shocking scene. "Master Kong." Su Zhenlei was scared out of his wits. Like a primary school student meeting his teacher, he bowed respectfully. He was scared to death. This Master Kong was too strong. He killed a peerless expert like Apollo with just 1 slash. "I'm sorry, my wife injured you just now. Here are 2 pills for you." Jiang Tian casually threw out a pill bottle and smiled, revealing his white teeth. But in Su Zhenlei's eyes, Jiang Tian was no different from a giant beast with its mouth wide open. He was so scared that he almost jumped up. It's okay. Thank you, Master Kong, for giving me the pills." Su Zhenlei trembled as he knelt on the ground and kowtowed. "Let's go, Qing'e." Jiang Tian smiled warmly as he held his beloved wife's hand, and then his figure flashed and vanished in the veil of night like a ghost. When the great changes in Jinling were announced on the dark web and spread to the west, the whole dark world was shocked. If Jiang Tian killed Master Qing Lian and the rest on the peak of Mount Everest, he only suppressed the forces in Southeast Asia. This time, the massacre in Jinling suppressed many forces in the world. On the dark web, there were screams and cries of shock. The #1 assassin organization in Asia, Dark Shadow, including Ruan Kuan and the Berserk Ape, was wiped out. The elites of the Butterfly Skull and their ace assassin, Rattlesnake, were wiped out. The famous Transcendent Eye in the United States lost 5 elites, including Jin Taixien. The Blackwater mercenaries lost more than 20 elites, including Satan. Bloody and Totem were even more upset. A blood descendant at the level of an earl could fight a martial Dao master. For them, Anthony was a rare and powerful pillar, but he died just like that. It was a great loss. Dozens of famous assassins and mercenaries on the Royal Assassin Leaderboard were killed. Hundreds of top assassins gathered in Jinling were wiped out overnight. None of them escaped. The most terrifying thing was that none of the Dark World elites managed to escape. One had to know that these experts were all wanted by the police of various countries. They were best at running for their lives, but all of them had still fallen. This showed how powerful Jiang Taichu was and how ruthless he was. The news was like a magnitude 12 earthquake to those who participated in the assassination and those who did not. In fact, apart from killing Jiang Tian, the elites came to Jinling to test the strength of the Huaxia Long Formation and martial Dao. After all, for a long time, Huaxia was considered to be a forbidden place for mercenaries and assassins. However, it was such a huge market that everyone wanted to take over. Many forces were paying close attention to this incident. If the elites from the Dark World won and escaped unscathed, they would be able to do business in Huaxia. Who would have thought that the Dragon Group didn't even make a move, but their lineup, which could only be described as heaven-defying, was completely annihilated in China overnight. This made them even more terrified and fearful of that mysterious country. In the middle of the last century, before and after the founding of Huaxia, the West suffered a great loss in the earth-shattering war. They thought that after decades of recuperation and hiding their strength, they had the capital and strength to make a comeback. However, this assassination had shattered all their confidence. Then, another piece of breaking news came. Golden Scorpion and Apollo, 2 of the 7 leaders of the Great Circle, participated in the battle and encountered Kong Taichu. Both of them were killed by Kong Taichu. Apollo's identity was also exposed. He was one of the 12 main gods in the European pantheon. A real leader. Even these 2 were dead. For a time, countless assassins and mercenaries from the Dark World were trembling in fear. The $500 million bounty became a hot potato, and no one dared to accept it. The entire Dark World was shrouded in sadness and worry. How many experts wouldn't seek revenge for the smallest grievance? They did not kill him this time. Once he recovered, they were afraid that he would launch a crazy revenge. Chapter 291. West, Mount Olympus, Pantheon of the Gods. It was majestic and filled with holy light. A mighty and imposing figure sat on a golden throne inlaid with gems. He looked down at the many experts below the platform and said in a dignified voice, "You're right. Apollo has fallen in Huaxia, but we, the Pantheon of the Gods, will never take revenge. He was the father of the gods, the strongest powerhouse in the Western Arcana world." Artemis, also one of the 12 main gods, frowned with hatred. "Why not? This is the first time in 100 years that a main god has fallen. This is a great humiliation to us. We must launch a bloody revenge." Apollo betrayed the Pantheon, became a fighter for the Great Circle, and even colluded with the Blood Breeds. This is even more humiliating for us. Zeus's majestic eyes flashed with divine light, suppressing the doubts and dissatisfaction of all the powerhouses. Even Artemis was shocked and took a step back. Zeus said with hatred, "If Kong Taichu hadn't killed him, we wouldn't even know of his connection with the Great Circle. Immediately contact Yi Zhantian of the Huaxia Long Formation, express our friendship and goodwill, and express our strong condemnation of the Great Circle on the international stage." Below the stage, the Western powerhouses responded in unison. Las Vegas, still in the luxurious conference room. However, the atmosphere of this meeting was particularly dull, filled with a pessimistic and horrifying atmosphere. Huaxia's military must have made a move, or even Yi Zhantian himself. Otherwise, Golden Scorpion and Apollo would not have fallen. Little 5, the head of North America, said with hatred. Intelligence shows that Jiang Tian has a close relationship with the Xia military. He once served as a martial arts consultant for Zhan Long and also provided a large number of special drugs to the military. Many of the powerhouses said nothing. If Jiang Tian was only strong individually, it would not matter. After all, no matter how strong he was, how could he compare to a super organization like the Great Circle? But if he had the backing of a major country, it was too scary. Sixth Old Man Fan was silent for a long time with a gloomy face before waving his hands sadly. First, remove the hidden flower bounty and stop all activities in Xia. All members of the Great Circle will withdraw from the Xia market. Everyone nodded their heads speechlessly. Little 5 pondered for a moment before suggesting, Sixth Master Fan, let's start using the Great Turtle Island base in the Pacific Ocean. I'm afraid it's not safe here. Bullshit. Big Turtle Island, Big Turtle Island. Do you want me to be a coward? Sixth Old Man Fan flew into a rage and smashed his beloved antique purple clay cup, which was worth millions of yuan, onto the ground, causing it to shatter. Big Turtle Island was a private island that Big Circle had purchased with a large sum of money. There were many fortifications built on top of it, and there were thousands of private soldiers. Moreover, the base was located 100 meters below the ground, so it was not afraid of rocket artillery attacks. It could even withstand Dongfeng penetrating missiles. During the long development of the Great Circle, there had been a period of more than 20 years when it was considered an illegal organization. They had set up their headquarters there for fear of being ambushed by powerful experts or suppressed by large countries. However, the Circle grew too strong and became a legal organization and enterprise. Sixth Master Fan could even lobby the United States Congress and drink and chat with important politicians, who would be willing to hide in the dark underground. Therefore, they moved their headquarters to the Lisboa International Casino in Las Vegas, where they enjoyed the prosperity of the world. It was not easy for them to come to the light of day, but now they had to move back and become a rat in the dark again. How could Sixth Master Fan take it? He was so angry that he was about to explode. Sixth Master Fan, please calm down. I know my mistake. Little 5 was so scared that his face turned pale. He knelt on the ground and trembled. This kind of organization was like an independent kingdom, and its hierarchy was strict. If Sixth Master Fan wanted to kill him, no one could stop him. Get out! Sixth Master Fan waved his hand and coughed violently. All the big shots retreated in fear. Sixth Master, are you moving or not? At this time, a seductive Chinese woman walked out from the side room and asked in a coquettish voice. Move quickly. Prepare a private plane, we're leaving now. Sixth Master Fan's anger dissipated, but the more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. He quickly got up and rushed to the private airport under the protection of many powerhouses like a rat crossing the street. Just like that, Jiang Tian joined hands with Qing'e and bathed Jinling in blood. With the deaths of more than 100 experts in 23 batches as a signal, the strongest voice was sent to the dark world, truly becoming famous internationally. Kong Techu. This 3-word song had finally become a taboo name in the hearts of many dark world organizations. When Hidden Flowers bounty on the dark web was removed, many experts were in an uproar, their hearts palpitating. From the actions of the sun god Apollo and the golden scorpion, everyone could tell that this was the dark net of the Big Circle. On one hand, there were only a few organizations in the world that could afford 500 million USD. They were limited to the Cherry Blossom Society, the Chinese Society of Singapore, and the Big Circle. On the other hand, Kong Techu had killed one of the 7 big shots of the Big Circle, Lin Zhenyu. They already had a grudge against each other, and this time, 2 of the Big Circle's experts were involved. Lin Zhenyu was also a super big shot, but he had lost to Yi Zhantian and went into seclusion for 20 years. His influence in the dark world had gradually faded, and his name was not as well known. But the Golden Scorpion and Apollo were different. They were very active and had a glorious record. They could be said to be world-renowned. Especially Apollo, who was also one of the 12 main gods of the Hall of Gods, was even more famous than Lin Zhenyu. But these two big shots of the dark world died in the hands of Kong Teichu. They were killed with a single slash, and even their heads were blown off. Anyone who saw the photo of Apollo's corpse was terrified. What was more frightening was that the Big Circle did not increase the reward and take revenge. Instead, they chose to remove the dark net and even moved their headquarters to Big Turtle Island. This made people speculate. It was too shocking. It can be said that Kong Teichu alone suppressed the famous Big Circle. Which organization dares to provoke such a powerful expert? In the future, no one will accept Kong Teichu's orders. No, don't even go to Huaxia anymore. Such discussions were everywhere on the darknet, and after the Big Circle removed the darknet, it became even more chaotic and reached its peak. For a moment, many strong people of the dark world were shocked when they heard the name Kong Teichu. At this time, a day and a night had passed since the bloodbath in Jinling. The Jiang family mansion, which was like a typhoon, had been repaired and restored to its original state. In the study, Jiang Tian sat on a rocking chair. On the coffee table were the heavenly court black sword, Gingjin iron rod, the set of armor, and Apollo's golden longbow. "Qing'e, these are all treasures. Which one do you like?" Jiang Tian asked with a smile. He had continuously swallowed healing and qi-nourishing medicine. After the bloodbath in Jinling, the medicine circulated throughout his body and nourished his organs. His true yuan was abundant, and his physique and cultivation had been completely restored. "Can't I have all of them?" Qing'e leaned against Jiang Tian and smiled mischievously. "Ah, of course." Jiang Tian looked up and laughed. He was overjoyed to feel Qing'e's drastic change. This change was not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of mentality. She was more cheerful and confident than before. It was as if the life that was originally curled up had completely unfolded. "I'm kidding." Qing'e smiled and patted Jiang Tian's head. "Baby, you're too weak. I'll leave these armor and weapons for you to protect yourself. Big sister is so powerful. You don't need them." Jiang Tian wanted to cry but had no tears. However, he also knew that Qing'e was telling the truth, so he did not hold back. He summoned flames and spent a day of hard work using various materials to carve a flying array, a protective wind array, a transformation array, and many other arrays on the sword. The flying array could convert the vast spiritual energy between heaven and earth into kinetic energy for the treasured sword. It could even break the sound barrier. And the protective wind array was necessary. It could protect the user from the interference of the airflow. Otherwise, it would be very easy to form an afro like the punk. And the transformation array was a temporary measure that Jiang Tian did not have a storage artifact. Once the array was activated, he could become the size of a needle. Mortals would not be able to see him at all. He could even avoid X-rays and pass through airport security. After all, in modern society, carrying a treasured sword in broad daylight would seem too chunibyu. If he enlarged it, it would be a long sword that was 10 feet long. Only then would it be convenient to fly. In addition, there were concealment arrays, noise reduction arrays, and so on. Finally, he branded his own divine sense and turned the heavenly quartz black sword into his own flying sword. When the divine sense branding was completed, Jiang Tian immediately felt a connection with the heavenly quartz black sword. The black sword was like a butterfly, happily flying up and down around Jiang Tian. It was extremely agile. "Wow, it can fly by itself." Qing'e was amazed. She was deeply impressed by the profoundness of cultivation. "Go!" Jiang Tian's divine sense moved. Swish! There was a sharp sound. The black sword drew a streak of light and shot into the sky. It instantly turned into a small black dot and disappeared. It had completely surpassed the speed of sound. "Return!" Jiang Tian shouted. The black sword seemed to appear out of thin air and flew in front of Jiang Tian. "From now on, I will call you Little Black Sword." Jiang Tian held the hilt of the sword and felt a sense of pride. It could be said that with this flying sword, his combat power would increase tenfold. He would not be afraid of even half a step away from the immortal state. Then, Jiang Tian refined the Gingjin iron rod again. The art of the rod was about being domineering and fierce. As the saying goes, the rod can sweep through a large area. However, what Jiang Tian liked was an elegant and otherworldly fighting style. Thus, he sharpened the two ends of the iron staff and thickened the middle, forming a black iron flying shuttle. There were also countless small formation runes inscribed on it. When Jiang Tian was done with all this, he branded all the Dharma treasures with his divine sense and made them his and Qing'er's Dharma treasures. It was already the next morning. To his surprise, the big-breasted policewoman, Lin Menghan, who he met by chance at the gas station, rushed in with a few police officers. Jiang Tian, you are suspected of organizing illegal activities and multiple murders. You are under arrest. Upon entering the living room, Lin Menghan said arrogantly with a frosty expression. Chapter 292. Jiang Tian sipped his tea and frowned in disgust. Where's the arrest warrant? This? Lin Menghan was slightly stunned, a little embarrassed and annoyed. Hooligans these days were quite knowledgeable about the law. Actually, she had been keeping an eye on Jiang Tian for a long time. Dozens of people from the Nye family and the other two big families had died overnight. Lei Ming and Lei Gang had also died without knowing why. She suspected that all these had something to do with Jiang Tian, but what made her angry was that her leader did not support her investigation and did not even allow her to access the files. Her investigation could be said to be difficult and full of difficulties. It seemed that the police force was rotten to the core. She understood that Jiang Tian's power was not to be underestimated. The Jiang family's assets were worth tens of billions and had become the biggest family in Jinling. As the crown prince of the Medicine King Group, Jiang Tian was also the founder of Fairsky Laboratory and a visiting professor. He had a distinguished status and a powerful background. But the more this was the case, the more the righteous policewoman hated Jiang Tian. She decided that she had to get hold of Jiang Tian's weakness and then follow the clues to get rid of all the parasites in the police force. Especially the night before, hundreds of foreigners had died in Jinling. They were suspected to be assassins and mercenaries targeting the Jiang family. Coupled with the fact that Jiang Tian had been attacked at the gas station, she was even more convinced that Jiang Tian was the culprit. Then I'll ask you to assist in the investigation. Lin Menghan's eyes flashed and she asked coldly, May I ask if you were the one who killed more than 100 people last night? Yes, what do you want? Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and looked at her indifferently, disdainfully. What? You actually admitted it. Lin Menghan could not believe that this kid did not take her seriously. Then she scolded with a serious face, Then you're a suspect and I want to arrest you. Please cooperate. The night before, more than 10 assassins with guns broke into the Jiang family and the Medicine King Group. Jiang Tian asked with an indifferent expression, I would like to ask, when my Jiang family was under attack and was in danger, where were you, Officer Lin? Lin Menghan was embarrassed. She then said angrily, I'm arresting you now, not you. She pulled out her pistol and pointed it at Jiang Tian. Kneel on the ground and put your hands on your head. Don't resist, or I'll kill you immediately. Do you think you're the only one who knows about the people I killed? Where's your leader? Why didn't he come and arrest me? Jiang Tian's expression remained unchanged as he sneered. But Lin Menghan asked subconsciously. She also felt that it was strange. In fact, her father had reminded her not to get involved in any cases related to Jiang Tian, but she was not convinced. She thought that her father was scared of Jiang Tian. You can't resist external insults. You only know how to bully your own people. Think about it. Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to pay attention to her and sneered. What did you say? In Jinling and even in the Su province, Lin Menghan was known as the #1 policewoman. She was skilled in her work and was very capable. Her father was also the deputy head of the provincial police department. Many young men pursued her. This had nurtured her arrogant personality. When had she ever been treated so coldly? Lin Menghan almost exploded when she heard this. She couldn't help but think of the time when she was beaten up by Rattlesnake at the gas station. Jiang Tian, if you don't cooperate, I'll kill you. Lin Menghan unlocked the safety of her pistol. Her face was frosty as she spoke righteously. Don't think that you're so great just because you're the young master of the Medicine King Group. Don't think that just because you have a few officials protecting you, you can do whatever you want. I've caught so many hedonistic young masters like you, vermin of society. What are you being so arrogant for? Yes, she thought that with her father's connections she could definitely take down Jiang Tian. No matter how strong the Medicine King Group was, it was just a business. The difference between business and government was too great. Big boobs. Brainless. Jiang Tian stared at her chest for a long time, then suddenly laughed disdainfully. Lin Menghan could tell that Jiang Tian wasn't teasing her. There was no desire in his eyes at all. There was not even the slightest bit of appreciation. There was only endless disdain and indifference. Yes, the body and appearance that she was so proud of was just a joke and a flaw in Jiang Tian's eyes. In his eyes, she wasn't even worth as much as a cow. Jiang Tian. Realizing this, the policewoman had the urge to go berserk. She couldn't wait to beat Jiang Tian into a sieve. Don't disturb me while I'm drinking tea. Get out of here. Jiang Tian frowned in disgust. Mr. Jiang. At this moment, 3 figures walked in. Dad. Lin Menghan was shocked. She saw Secretary Yu and her father, who was the deputy director, walking in with a female officer. Why are you pointing a gun at Mr. Jiang? Shu Wei frowned and asked unhappily. Wow, what a handsome policewoman. Shu Wei was tall and beautiful. She was valiant and had a refined temperament. She had the aura of someone from a wealthy family. Looking at her epaulets, she was already a colonel. All of this made Lin Menghan, who thought highly of herself, feel ashamed of her inferiority. Her eyes were intoxicated and she was a little dazed. I'm asking you. Answer me. Shu Wei scolded harshly, scaring Lin Menghan to the point that her entire body quivered. Sir, I'm here to arrest him. He's a suspect. 2 nights ago. Lin Menghan shrank like a quail and hurriedly reported. Slap. Shu Wei raised her hand and slapped Lin Menghan. Who do you think you are? How dare a black bitch arrest Mr. Jiang? Black bitch was an insulting term used by soldiers to call police officers. Calling her a bitch was an insult to the extreme. Lin Menghan's mouth was bleeding from the slap. She staggered, shocked, angry, embarrassed, and resentful. However, she was more confused. Why did she hit her? What was the relationship between Jiang Tian and her? Flustered and exasperated, she flailed her arms and legs and shouted angrily, What right do you have to hit me? Just because he's the young master of the Medicine King Group. How dare you hit me? Just because you have a relationship, you can bully others? She looked at Deputy Director Lin for help. She wanted her father to uphold justice for her and suppress Shu Wei and Jiang Tian. Little did she know that Deputy Director Lin was already scared out of his wits by Secretary Yu's angry gaze. In his heart, he wanted to kick this brainless and disappointing girl to death. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He had warned her time and time again, but she still, Shut up. Haven't you caused enough trouble? Without another word, he slapped Lin Menghan's face. Her delicate cheeks swelled up and a few clear fingerprints could be seen on her face. This time, Lin Menghan was really stunned. Her father had always doted on her. When did he hit her so hard? With tears welling up in her eyes, Lin Menghan heard Shu Wei say angrily, You want to ask me why I hit you? Then I'll tell you. It's not because of personal feelings or Mr. Jiang's status. It's because everything Mr. Jiang did was authorized by the military. Authorized by the military? Lin Menghan's worldview was shattered. She could not believe it. The leader of an evil force, a person who killed people like flies, was authorized by the military? Mr. Jiang, this is the National Hero Medal awarded by the central government. It's to commend you for defending against the invaders and solving a big problem for us. Shu Wei presented the dazzling military medal and certificate and then smacked Jiang Tian. She gave a standard military salute with respect in her eyes. National Hero Medal? At that moment, Lin Menghan was dumbfounded. Her soul almost left her body. The few police officers behind her were scared out of their wits. They felt that Lin Menghan was a jinx. What a scam! The National Hero Medal was not an ordinary medal. It was awarded to professional soldiers who had made a significant contribution. Moreover, the military rank was usually higher than a major general. Could it be that he was a major general? Lin Menghan only felt that the world was spinning. Her face was as white as a sheet. Cold sweat poured down her body and her legs turned to jelly. If she had fired that shot just now, she would probably be dead. Oh God, she actually pointed a gun at a National Hero Medal recipient. She must be tired of living. Why aren't you all leaving? Secretary Yu waved his hand impatiently. This Lin Menghan was brainless and undisciplined. Did she treat the orders of the higher-ups as a joke? The higher-ups had repeatedly ordered her to come and cause trouble. She could not be used anymore. Fire her. Yes. When Lin Menghan came, she was aggressive and determined to win. However, when she left, her face was covered in dirt and she was extremely embarrassed. When she walked out of the Jiang family's gate, she even tripped over the high threshold and fell on the ground like a dead dog. Her knees were bruised. However, the few male police officers who had doted on her did not help her up. They did not even look at her. They hated her to the core. She was a useless teammate. She was a jinx. She had gone to arrest a National Hero Medal recipient without an arrest warrant. Everyone would be punished. Mr. Jiang, the dark flower bounty on the dark web has been cancelled. At least for a short period of time, the Jiang family is safe. Shu Wei said with a smile after they had walked away. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. He was not surprised by this. This time, many assassins and mercenaries had died an unnatural death. 2 of the 7 leaders of the Big Circle had died. Moreover, Jiang Tian had found out that the Big Circle's backer was the Big Circle. The Big Circle would not be able to retaliate in a short period of time. Mr. Jiang, many departments have expressed their dissatisfaction with your brazen actions. However, Elder Chow insisted that your actions were justified and legal. Elder Chow had put in a lot of effort. Shu Wei said meaningfully. I understand. Thank Elder Chow for me. Jiang Tian said calmly. At his level, he was worthy of the country's support. He had the right to talk to Elder Chow. The Southeast Asian masters occupied the northern foot of Mount Everest and Jinling was in chaos. Yi Zhantian did not intervene in the 2 critical moments. It was Jiang Tian who came from behind and turned the tide. Without Jiang Tian, the military and Hua Xia's martial arts community would have been humiliated. This showed how important Jiang Tian was. Chapter 293. When Shu Wei was about to leave, Jiang Tian suddenly asked, "Can you all contact the Circle?" Of course. The Great Circle is the #1 Chinese organization in the world. We have to control, use, and pacify them. We have already established a channel to communicate with them, Shu Wei said. If it's convenient, please tell 6th Master Fan of the Great Circle that Lin Zhenyu and I were forced to fight because he wanted to touch my beloved disciple. If he stops now, I won't do anything to him. Otherwise, I will annihilate his entire family. Jiang Tian said calmly. Shu Wei was slightly taken aback. She nodded and said, "Okay, don't worry, Mr. Jiang. I will find a way to pass the message." After Shu Wei and the others left, Qing'er came out of the study and sat down with Jiang Tian. She smiled and said, "Hubby, are we really going to let the Great Circle go? The Jiang family is not safe before the dragon subduing formation is completed. It's not a good time to show hostility and attract their attention." Jiang Tian chuckled as a sharp murderous intent flashed across his eyes. He said, "Hee hee, but to cut the weeds, one must remove the roots. How can I let go of such a big circle? I just don't have the time to deal with them now. Once the dragon subduing formation is completed, I will go to their door and kill them all." Late at night, Jiang Tian was playing with his flying sword. Qing'er held Jiang Tian's hand and leaned against Jiang Tian's side. There was a hint of shyness between her brows. At this time, she had just taken a shower, and the water vapor made her pretty little face look even more translucent and delicate. The night wind was biting cold outside, and yellow leaves were falling. However, the room was as warm as spring. She wore silk pajamas, revealing her fair arms and legs. Her body exuded a faint fragrance that refreshed one's heart and refreshed one's mind. Jiang Tian knew that this was not the smell of perfume or cosmetics. This was the true fragrance of her body, the true immortal qi. It couldn't be helped. The immortal body was just that domineering. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade. She bit her lower lip and smiled. Mom and Dad are urging us to have a baby again. They even suspect that there is something wrong with our bodies. I won't take the blame for this. Jiang Tian put away the little black flying sword and looked at Qing'er in surprise. What are you laughing about? Why are you pretending to be confused? We have been together for more than a year, and you haven't even touched me. Qing'er was so embarrassed that she almost died. Her beautiful face was flushed red, as if she had applied rouge. Is this bastard a block of wood? Block? Jiang Tian suddenly understood. In fact, the relationship between the two of them had become more and more sincere. Later on, Jiang Tian's, when I become famous throughout the world, I will want you, had already become a meaningless vow. To Qing'er, even if Jiang Tian was a demon or a beggar, she would never leave him and follow him for the rest of her life. The reason why Jiang Tian didn't want Qing'er was mainly because if she kept her virginity, it would be more beneficial for her immortal body to awaken. The probability and degree of awakening would be greatly increased. And after Qing'er consumed the princess flower and awakened her immortal body, dark organizations from all over the world came one after another. After that, the two of them traveled from Linzhou to Jinling, slaughtering their way through. After a bloodbath in Jinling, Jiang Tian was busy recuperating and refining weapons, so much so that he didn't even touch Qing'er's finger. Then let's go make a baby. Jiang Tian was overjoyed and laughed. Qing'er's immortal body awakened, and she stepped on the road of cultivation. Jiang Tian's heart fell to the ground, and he was in a good mood. He picked her up and threw her on the rose-colored bed. Why did you have to open your eyes when we kissed? Jiang Tian was given a fright by her round eyes. Don't look at me like that, okay? It's scary. I want to engrave your appearance in my heart. When I meet you again in my next life, I want to be your wife again. Qing'er's slender hands caressed Jiang Tian's face, and her eyes were slightly red as she spoke emotionally. Qing'er. Jiang Tian's heart was filled with tenderness. After 10,000 years of suffering and waiting, after living two lives, he was finally able to embrace Qing'er in his arms again. Only then did Qing'er truly belong to him. When that wonderful moment arrived, Qing'er's entire body stiffened, and her brows furrowed slightly. There was a hint of pain in her eyes, but she suddenly couldn't help but bite Jiang Tian's arm. Then, a teardrop flowed down from the corner of her eye. Outside the window, withered leaves drifted silently. Inside the room, the lights were bright and beautiful, and the entire room was filled with spring. On this tranquil night, Jiang Tian finally turned the girl that he had missed for 10,000 years into a complete woman. Qing'er's tenderness made Jiang Tian unable to suppress the impulse in his heart. Her single-mindedness, her gentleness were enough to set off monstrous waves in Jiang Tian's heart, which was as still as a rock and as still as water, and make him go crazy. After that night, Qing'er and Jiang Tian's relationship deepened. It was as sweet as honey, full of tenderness and sweetness. Jiang Tian meditated and cultivated with Qing'er every day. Sometimes he would go to the Fairsky laboratory to give pointers, and sometimes he would accompany Qing'er on sightseeing tours. He was very comfortable. Moreover, the Lingnan spellcasters had also collected a lot of spell formation materials from Southeast Asia. The materials for the spell formation were continuously transported over, and gradually, the super spell formation was beginning to take shape. However, Jiang Tian also reminded them not to expose their relationship, in case the Chinese of Singapore attacked them. Right now, they were in the enemy's base camp. Soon, it was the end of the year. The temperature was dropping, and winter was approaching. I heard from enlightened Master Hongye and Su Wenjie that the magical weapon auction of Singapore's spellcasters is about to begin. Looks like I'll have to make a trip to Singapore this time. After discussing with Qing'e, Jiang Tian prepared for the trip to Singapore. Unexpectedly, before they could leave, Jiang Tian received a piece of unexpected news. Cheng Yi, who had grown up with him in the Xixia County Hall, had returned. Cheng Yi hasn't been back for a few years. Jiang, I know you're rich, but this meal has to be on me. On the phone, Zhen Shuai said seriously and enthusiastically invited Jiang Tian and his wife to join him. Fine. I'll let you show off. Jiang Tian did not force him and happily agreed. In the evening, Zhen Shuai drove a brand new Maserati sports car to pick up Jiang Tian and his wife. Jiang Tian was surprised. Wow, you've changed your gun for a cannon. You're rich now? Didn't young Master Yu Qiang tell you? I've taken over Emperor International under Cannon Fist Master Lei Ming. I only spent 50 to 60 million. Zhen Shuai said embarrassedly. Oh, I see. Jiang Tian nodded, but his brows were slightly furrowed. In his previous life, although Zhen Shuai wasn't very rich, he still lived a peaceful life without worrying about food or clothing. In this life, he was closer to him. He did not know if it was a blessing or a curse for him. Seeing Jiang Tian's frown, Tan Guangshu quickly said, Jiang Tian, don't worry. Zhen Shuai didn't do those dirty things. Those businesses have all stopped. Now, he only has a few traditional Chinese massage therapists. They're all good women. Zhen Shuai, sorry for the expense. Nice to meet you, Dong Su. Qing'e also came out and greeted politely. Bang. Zhen Shuai's hand trembled and the car keys fell to the ground. His saliva instantly flowed out and his eyes were wide open. Qing'e began to receive Yu Lu's favor, and her temperament had also undergone some changes. She was pure and untainted, with a bit of gentleness. She could be described as charming and feminine. Any man who saw her would be moved. Zhen Shuai, what are you looking at? She's our sister-in-law. Tan Guangshu gave him a slap. Nothing. I just felt that our sister-in-law had changed a lot. I couldn't recognize her. Zhen Shuai gulped. His voice was so loud that even he was shocked. He quickly got into the car and led the way. I haven't seen Cheng Yi for many years. I wonder how Cheng Yi has changed. Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with anticipation and excitement. Strictly speaking, Cheng Yi wasn't considered a disciple of a big family. He was just an outsider living with his mother in the county. Furthermore, he was 2 years older than Jiang Tian and the rest. In the beginning, Cheng Yi looked down on Jiang Tian and the other two who did all kinds of evil things. He didn't even greet them when they met. But once, Jiang Tian and the other two went to eat at Cheng Yi's mother's barbecue shop. When they saw a few tattooed gangsters eating without paying, they immediately rushed up and beat them up. After that, the relationship between the four of them improved, and they became close friends. Later, Jiang Tian and the rest found out that Cheng Yi was very good at fighting. Their actions that day were completely unnecessary. He could beat up 3 to 5 adult men by himself. As a result, Cheng Yi became the force output of this small gang. Since he was a little older, they called him the boss. Now that he thought about it, there was once when Jiang Tian was blocked by Xia Miao and a few other thugs in Jinling. It was Cheng Yi who saved him. In order to save him, Cheng Yi fought 7 to 8 gangsters alone and was cut several times. It wasn't until after he finished his university in Jinling that Cheng Yi left the big family and returned to the northeast with his mother. Jiang Tian didn't understand at that time. But now that he thought about it, Cheng Yi seemed to have the shadow of a martial artist. This time, the location of the gathering was still Emperor International in Bright Moon Town. However, it was different from before. Now, it was Zhen Shuai's property. Zhen Shuai also told all the service staff to treat Jiang Tian as if he was there himself. They had to serve him well. Good evening, Mr. Jiang, Mrs. Jiang. Welcome. When Jiang Tian and the rest entered, the store manager, foreman, and a dozen beauties in Cheongsam standing on both sides of the entrance bowed together. They entered one of the best presidential boxes. After drinking tea and chatting for a while, a young man in his early 30s opened the door and walked in. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was tall and burly and looked very powerful. He was wearing an old mountaineering suit and his hiking shoes were badly worn. He carried a backpack and was dressed like a typical backpacker. However, he looked a little tired and travel-worn. Jiang Tian, Mingshu, Zhen Shuai. I missed you so much. Cheng Yi hugged everyone enthusiastically. Other people did not notice it, but Jiang Tian noticed that Cheng Yi was limping when he walked. He scanned with his divine sense and found that his right leg had been amputated and replaced with a prosthesis. Cheng Yi, what happened to your leg? Jiang Tian's heart tightened. He frowned and asked in a low voice. Chapter 294. It's nothing. Haven't I always loved playing football? 3 years ago, I was playing football with someone and accidentally fractured my leg. That left the root of the illness. Cheng Yi sat down and forced a smile. It's fine. I can walk and jump. My daily life isn't affected at all. Jiang Tian lowered his head and took a sip of tea. He did not say anything. Cheng Yi did not tell the truth. There must be something behind it. But since Cheng Yi did not want to say it, Jiang Tian did not want to force him. He would ask him when the time was right. Cheng Yi also noticed the abnormality. But since Jiang Tian did not ask, she naturally would not ask either. She obediently poured tea for Jiang Tian and the rest. Is this my sister-in-law? Cheng Yi held the cup with both hands and thanked her. Jiang Tian nodded his head. How virtuous. Jiang, you're so lucky. Cheng Yi praised. Cheng Yi, let me tell you. This place is now mine. Drink to your heart's content tonight. Aren't you the god of wine? I'll definitely take you down today. Zhen Shuai, on the other hand, didn't notice anything. He put on the airs of a big boss and shouted, ordering wine and food. He was awe-inspiring and extremely smug. Zhen Shuai, you're doing pretty well. I heard that there are a few chain stores in Emperor International that are worth hundreds of millions. Cheng Yi praised. But Jiang Tian noticed that Cheng Yi's gaze was calm. He thought that Cheng Yi's background was probably not simple. Just what was his background? Jiang Tian, I'm really sorry. I didn't even know that you guys got married in Linzhou City. Here's a red packet for you. Cheng immediately took out a stack of money from his wallet and wrapped it in red paper. He handed it to Zhao Xueqing and smiled apologetically. Sister-in-law, you must accept it. It's just a token of my appreciation. Jiangtans? Cheng Yi hesitated. It's boss's kind intentions. Just accept it. After Jiang Tian nodded, Cheng Yi accepted the red packet. Tan Guangshu smiled and said, Cheng Yi, you are really generous. 1 red packet is equivalent to half a year of my salary. No, I'm not doing well. She smiled. It wasn't modesty, but rather bitterness. He laughed heartily and said, but no matter how difficult it is for me, when you get married, each of you will get 10,000 yuan as a wedding gift. Jiang Tian said faintly, at that time, eldest brother's family was in dire straits. They relied on auntie to earn money to support the family. Cheng Yi swore at that time that he would become a rich man. He promised that he would give anyone who got married half a kilogram of money as a gift. Jiang Tian looked at him deeply and said, at that time, Boss Cheng was really full of heroic spirit. Young and frivolous. Cheng Yi smiled bitterly and said, I've calculated that 500 yuan per caddy is about 48,000 yuan. I can't afford it now. Forget it. Even if you give 8 million yuan, it's nothing in front of Jiang Tian. The dishes began to be served. Zhen Shuai opened a 30-year-old bottle of Maotai and poured wine for everyone. He laughed and said, Jiang Tian is amazing now. He's the crown prince of Medicine King Group. Medicine King Group is now worth tens of millions. Zhen Shuai. Tan Guangshu glared at him. Obviously, Cheng Yi didn't seem to be doing well. If anyone heard it, they might hurt him. Jiang Tian, congratulations. Cheng Yi raised his glass and smiled. I'm afraid that you can be on par with Nye family, Sun family, and Chen family. The two clinked their glasses and drank. Jiang Tian found that even at this moment, Cheng Yi didn't show the slightest bit of shock. There were only blessings. Nie family and Sun family are nothing. Zhen Shuai spat and said disdainfully, Nie family, Sun family, and Chen family were all destroyed by Jiang Tian. Sun Hao was directly killed by Jiang Tian. This is awesome. His resentment towards Sun Hao hadn't completely dissipated until now. Cheng Yi's face changed when he heard that. His hand that was holding the glass trembled slightly, and some wine spilled out. He pondered for a moment and said, Jiang Tian, be careful. The power behind these three families is not to be trifled with. What power? Jiang Tian asked with interest. Do you know Japan's Cherry Blossom Society? Cheng Yi's face trembled as he said softly. Cheng Yi, since you know about the Cherry Blossom Society, who are you? Jiang Tian was very curious, but he shook his head without batting an eyelid. Cherry Blossom Society is too far away. You know Yakuza's Yamaguchi-gumi, right? Cheng Yi frowned. Who doesn't know? They've been in movies before. Yamaguchi-gumi, Mafia, and so on. Zhen Shuai said with a smile. In Japan, Yamaguchi-gumi is ruled by the Cherry Blossom Society. Cheng Yi frowned with deep fear. How do you know all this? Jiang Tian asked with interest. I heard it from someone at a barbecue stall. Cheng Yi smiled embarrassedly. Cheng Yi, you Northeasterners like to brag. Yamaguchi-gumi is already so powerful. How can there be a Cherry Blossom Society stronger than them? If you're so good at making up stories, why don't you write web novels? It's like there's rice in a vat. Zhen Shuai laughed. Cheng Yi smiled awkwardly and said, Jiang Tian, I'll call you later. At this moment, Tan Guangshu asked, Cheng Yi, you've been away from Jinling for so many years. How have you been? How's your aunt? My mother has passed away. A trace of grief appeared on Cheng Yi's face, but it was immediately covered up by a fake smile. He said with a smile, she died of a cerebral infarction. There wasn't much pain, and she passed away peacefully. Cheng Yi, my condolences. Tan Guangshu said with some regret. Zhen Shuai quickly raised his glass and said, let's drink, let's drink. It's rare for us brothers to get together. Let's not talk about these unhappy things. After everyone drank for a while, Jiang Tian asked, Cheng Yi, what about you? What are you doing? My mother left me a sum of money, and it's enough for me to eat, drink, and play for a while. I've been traveling around, and I've been living a carefree life. Cheng Yi smiled proudly. Jiang Tian didn't want to ask any more questions. It could be said that Cheng Yi didn't speak a single word of truth aside from the few words about the Cherry Blossom Festival. Soon, it was already 10 p.m. at night. Cheng Yi looked at the time on his phone and smiled. All right, that's all for today. I have to go. What's so funny? One-stop service. You can eat, drink, and gamble. There's still 2 more. Zhen Shuai said. He was so drunk that his eyes were hazy. Jiang Tian coughed, and Zhen Shuai was startled. He immediately said, Sister-in-law, I've said too much. There's no gambling or gambling. It's a proper massage. Jiang Tian, you're not allowed to play. Cheng Yi, you're not allowed to leave. I really have to go. Cheng Yi insisted. Stay at my place. My presidential suite. Zhen Shuai smiled. There's no need. I've booked a presidential suite at Sheraton. I'll look for you guys tomorrow. Cheng Yi shook hands with everyone and walked out quickly. To Mount Wu. At the entrance of Emperor International, Cheng Yi refused to be sent off. He stopped a taxi and whispered to the driver. Mount Wu? Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows. Mount Wu was a barren mountain. Didn't he book a hotel? But the driver nodded. Cheng Yi was about to get into the car, but Jiang Tian stopped him. He threw 100 yuan to the driver and said, Master, I'm sorry for delaying your business. You can go first. What's wrong? Cheng Yi looked at Jiang Tian in surprise. Jiang Tian didn't say anything. Instead, he dragged him into Emperor International and into an empty private room. Jiang Tian didn't let Qing'er and the rest in. He took out a bottle of red wine from the wine cabinet and poured a glass for Cheng Yi. He then poured another glass for himself. Then he stared at Cheng Yi and said coldly, Cheng Yi, if you treat me as your brother, then tell me how you lost your leg. It's okay, Second brother, you're thinking too much. Cheng Yi pretended to be relaxed and said, I had a car accident and amputated my leg. I didn't want you guys to feel uncomfortable, so I didn't tell you. Jiang Tian downed the wine in his glass in one gulp. Bang. He smashed the floor and said coldly, You really don't treat me as your brother. Good, you're really good. Cheng Yi opened his mouth to speak. His expression kept changing. Then, he slumped on the sofa and grabbed his hair with both hands. He said sadly, Second brother, it's not that I don't want to tell you. I don't want you to worry. I'm also afraid that I'll hurt you. Believe me. I can definitely help you. Jiang Tian sat down and poured himself another glass of wine. He drank it in one gulp. Help me? Cheng Yi drank a mouthful of wine and said with a bitter smile, Jiang Tian, no one in this world can help me. I've already accepted my fate. Your leg was cut off by an expert with a knife. You're actually not traveling. You're running for your life. Jiang Tian said coldly, Moreover, you're running so fast that you don't even dare to stay in a hotel. You can only sleep in the wild, right? Second brother, you've matured. Cheng Yi smiled and finally told Jiang Tian everything. It turned out that Cheng Yi really came from a martial arts family in the northeast, just as Jiang Tian had guessed. This family wasn't strong, but they had opened a martial arts school and were also involved in some shipping and foreign trade. The family also had billions of assets. The Cheng family had several heirloom gems, which were said to be able to quickly improve a martial artist's cultivation. However, Cheng Yi's father, Cheng Yi, found that it was not the case at all. These stones didn't have any spiritual energy at all. He spent 10 years and didn't find anything unusual about these stones, so he forgot about this matter and lived a peaceful life that stood aloof from worldly affairs. It happened when Cheng Yi was 10 years old. Suddenly, several experts from the Yamaguchi-gumi broke into the Cheng family and wanted to buy them at a high price. Cheng Yi flatly refused. Although he couldn't see what was so powerful about these so-called gems, they were, after all, heirlooms. No matter how much the other party offered, Cheng Yi was unwilling to sell them. The other party didn't agree and immediately attacked. The Yamaguchi-gumi captured several members of the Cheng family and threatened Cheng Yi. Cheng Yi had no choice but to give a few gems to the other party. However, the experts from the Yamaguchi-gumi didn't seem to know how to use these gems. They thought that the gems given by the Cheng family were fake and came to harass them every few days. Cheng Yi's cultivation was only at the peak of the iron body stage. He couldn't fight the Yamaguchi-gumi at all. He had no choice but to leave the northeast, change his name, and hide all over the country. Cheng Yi suddenly rented a residence in the Qixia County government's residence to avoid the Yamaguchi-gumi's pursuit. When he graduated from college, Cheng Yi suddenly left Jinling and returned to his hometown in the northeast because the Yamaguchi-gumi once again captured the fugitive Cheng Yi. After more than 10 years of diligent study and hard training, Cheng Yi had already reached the iron body stage. His mother's cultivation had also reached the level of internal strength. He thought he could fight the other party and rescue his father. However, the other party had brought experts from the Sakura Society this time. Cheng Yi was no match for them at all. In the wilderness suburbs, his mother was raped and killed, his father was seriously injured, and one of Cheng Yi's legs was cut off. Chapter 295. After he and his father escaped again, they completely gave up on the idea of revenge. They could only wander around the country to avoid the Yamaguchi-gumi's pursuit. They didn't even dare to stay in a hotel because the Yamaguchi-gumi's influence was too great. They even had a cooperative relationship with some scum in the Huaxia Society who had forgotten their ancestors. They could easily track down his whereabouts. To Jiang Tian, murdering others for their treasures was a very cliché story. It could be said that it was common in the cultivation world. But now, hearing it from his brother, Jiang Tian felt that it was a story filled with pain and despair. Cheng Yi was a sturdy man who was 1.8 meters tall. At this moment he was crying like a child. He said in a daze, "Second brother, do you know? When I saw my mother being raped and killed, I really felt that I was a complete trash. I couldn't even protect my own family. I might as well kill myself. My parents stood aloof from worldly affairs. For what? Why was God so cruel and wanted to kill them? My happy and beautiful life was torn to shreds by others. But why is this world so unfair? Cheng Yi suddenly roared at the top of his lungs. A gentleman's wealth is his own ruin. Jiang Tian looked at the deranged Cheng Yi. A chill emanated from his body, causing the surrounding temperature to drop by a few degrees. Cheng Yi, don't worry. I'll definitely help you. I'll definitely make them pay with their blood. Jiang Tian suddenly said in a low voice. Pay with their blood? Cheng Yi looked at Jiang Tian in astonishment. Then he bitterly smiled and said, I thought so too at first. But after a few bloody storms and a few years of hiding from place to place like a rat on the street, I've already understood that there are existences in this world that we can't afford to offend. Although I'm very aggrieved and unwilling, sometimes I can only endure it. Because if I don't endure it, my family will be exterminated and I'll completely disappear from this world. He suddenly looked at Jiang Tian anxiously and said, Jiang Tian, do you know that the Cherry Blossom Society is behind the Nye family? They have cooperated with the Yamaguchi-gumi. If you destroy the Nye family, the Yamaguchi-gumi will not let you off. Seeing that Jiang Tian didn't change his expression, he suddenly became anxious. He grabbed Jiang Tian's shoulders and said, Jiang Tian, don't think that you can provoke them just because you're the crown prince of the Medicine King group. You're wrong. In front of a transcendent power like the Cherry Blossom Society, we're just insignificant ants. I suggest that your Jiang family quickly sell off your shares and assets and flee to the United States or abroad. The further you go, the better. Get a few fake identities and live a peaceful life. Jiang Tian said indifferently, Sakura Society and Yamaguchi-gumi are just a few Japanese. What's there to be afraid of? I can crush them with a wave of my hand. Cheng Yi stared at Jiang Tian dumbfoundedly, not knowing what to say. Boss, you don't believe me? Let me show you my strength. Before Jiang Tian could finish his words, he waved his fingers and a 3-meter-long chi weapon slashed the marble coffee table into two. Gah! Cheng Yi was completely dumbfounded. He looked at Jiang Tian in a daze and said, condensing chi into a weapon. You're a transcendent expert. Damn, how did you do it? He couldn't believe it and thought that he was hallucinating. He grew up with Jiang Tian and knew Jiang Tian too well. Back then, his mother started a company, his father was a small official, and his grandfather was a very good old Chinese medicine doctor. However, it had nothing to do with the martial arts world. They were just an ordinary secular small family. Moreover, Jiang Tian's combat strength had always been terrible. He had been hanging out in internet cafes, bars, and instant noodles with girls since he was young. When he fought back then, it was usually 4 against 1. Jiang Tian was fiercer than anyone else. When it was 4 against 4, he ran faster than anyone else. In fact, Jiang Tian's role was that of a doghead strategist, a big bad guy who was in charge of coming up with evil ideas. However, everything in front of him was very real. The marble coffee table was so smooth that it could be used as a mirror to reflect a person's reflection. It was obvious that Jiang Tian's chi weapon was very sharp. You don't have to worry about that. Do you have confidence in me now? Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. Yes, I do. Cheng Yi said excitedly, second brother, thank you. Although Cheng Yi didn't know that Jiang Tian was Kong Teichu's real power, his transcendent master cultivation and his identity as the heir of the Medicine King group were enough to make the Yamaguchi-gumi wary. Then let's go find Uncle Cheng. Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. Okay, my dad is waiting for us on Mount Wu. I guess he hasn't eaten yet. Cheng Yi said hurriedly. Jiang Tian and Cheng Yi walked out of the private room and asked Jin Shui to prepare some cooked food and 2 bottles of Maodai. It was already late at night and most of the guests had left. Jiang Tian left Emperor International. Qinger drove the car and the 3 of them headed toward Mount Wu. Halfway through the journey, heavy snowflakes began to fall from the sky. A thick layer of snow soon accumulated on the ground. It's snowing. 2009 is almost here. Jiang Tian said lightly as he stretched his hand out of the car window and looked at the gray sky. The car sped all the way until they reached the end of the mountain road. The three of them got out of the car and walked into a small cave. Chang Yi was shocked and shouted, "Dad, where did you go?" "I think your dad is hiding." Jiang Tian's divine sense had already detected Ching Yi's father in the forest not far away. He sighed in his heart. Chang Yi was really scared by the Yamaguchi-gumi. "Dad, don't be nervous. This is my childhood friend, Jiang Tian, and his wife, Qingya." Chang Yi shouted. "Oh, it's Jiang Tian." Ching Yi jumped in a few leaps and smiled at Jiang Tian. He then glared at Ching Yi without leaving a trace. He probably thought it would be easy to be exposed if he brought too many people up. "Dad, you must be hungry. Hurry up and eat something." Chang Yi handed over the cooked food and Mao. Chang Yi sat on the ground, holding the cooked beef and wolfing it down. However, he didn't take a sip of the wine. "Don't drink in the future. Stay alert and vigilant when you're on the run." Cheng Yi glared at his son. Jiang Tian looked at Cheng Yi and felt a little sad. When Cheng Yi was studying at Jinling University, Cheng Yi had visited him several times. Although Cheng Yi's family was in ruins at that time, he still had the demeanor of a martial artist. He was in high spirits and talked and laughed freely. But now he was skinny. He was no more than 50 years old. His hair was all white, and his back was hunched. The key point was that he was like a frightened rabbit. His eyes were full of vigilance and his spirit was gone. After a few years of being on the run, his life was always in danger. No matter how strong a tiger man was, his mentality would collapse. "Dad, Jiang Tian is a martial arts expert with a cultivation level of transcendent stage. With him around, we don't have to be afraid of Yamaguchi-gumi anymore." Cheng Yi suddenly said excitedly. "What? You told Jiang Tian about our family?" Cheng Yi had a mouthful of beef in his mouth. He was so shocked that he forgot to swallow it. "Yeah, Jiang Tian knows everything, but don't worry." Cheng Yi swallowed the beef abruptly and choked. He stared and craned his neck. He said angrily, "What are you doing? Jiang Tian is just an ordinary person. How can he help us? And I told you not to bring any strangers up. What are you doing? If we're exposed, we're dead meat." He didn't like Jiang Tian at all. Back then, Jiang Tian was just a good-for-nothing who didn't do anything proper. He only knew how to fight and play with women. His son followed him around all day and even delayed his cultivation. If his son didn't know him, he might have mastered his martial arts and become an inner force expert. How could he have one of his legs removed by the other party? Cheng Yi said anxiously, "Dad, Jiang Tian is really a martial arts grandmaster with a cultivation level of transcendent stage. I saw it with my own eyes." "Shut up!" Cheng Yi shouted angrily and interrupted his son. He then looked at Jiang Tian and smiled. "Jiang Tian, you saw it too. We're like stray dogs now. We're penniless. Cheng Yi doesn't deserve to be your friend. Hurry up and leave. We won't cause you any trouble." "Uncle, please don't say that. It's not troublesome." Qingya smiled and said, "We know what happened. Don't worry. If those Yamaguchi pigs come, my husband won't have to do anything. I can handle them alone." "It's not the Yamaguchi pigs, it's the Yamaguchi-gumi." Cheng Yi was so angry that his nose was crooked. This girl looked so pretty, but it turned out that she was an idiot. You're a delicate girl who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. How can you handle the Yamaguchi-gumi powerhouses? Are you kidding me? He gnawed on the stewed bone and glanced at Jiang Tian and his wife with dissatisfaction. He shouted loudly, "It seems that I didn't make myself clear. I'm afraid you'll cause us trouble. Do you think you can show off just because you have some stinky money? Money is useless. If the Yamaguchi-gumi comes, won't you drag us down? Hurry up and leave. Don't cause trouble for us." "Dad, how can you say that?" Cheng Yi was so angry that tears were about to come out. Cheng Yi was unmoved. Cheng Yi looked at Jiang Tian and said apologetically, "Jiang Tian, don't take it to heart. My dad is really scared." "It's okay. I can understand." Jiang Tian said faintly, "Cheng Yi, how about this? I'll go back first. If anything happens, call me immediately. Okay. Cheng Yi didn't know what to say, so he could only agree for now. Are you really leaving? After leaving the cave, Chinger's heart softened. She said softly, there were people following us on the way here. I'm afraid they'll be here soon. Uncle Cheng may not be very polite, but he's probably really scared. Cheng Yi blocked a knife for me when he was young. How can I not care? Jiang Tian smiled gently and said, let's find a place to hide first. I'm afraid the Yamaguchi-gumi people will be here soon. The two figures flashed and disappeared into the dense forest. Hiding in a big tree, they could still hear Cheng Yi cursing at Cheng Yi. You're a good-for-nothing. Jiang Tian is an idiot. Transcendent Realm Cultivation and Martial Dao Grandmaster? Why doesn't he go to heaven? I saw it with my own eyes. Dad, can you be a little more polite to Jiang Tian? He's my good brother. Good brother my ass. Scoundrel friends, fair-weather friends, fuck off. Think about it. If you didn't hang out with him every day when you were young and focused on cultivation, would you only have iron body cultivation now? Would you only have one leg left? You're so confusing you don't understand. It's not Jiang Tian's fault. He didn't delay my cultivation. Slap, slap. 2 slaps rang out and the cave quieted down. Chapter 296. It seems that you weren't well-liked when you were a kid. Chinga looked at Jiang Tian teasingly. It's fine as long as you like me. I'm famous all over the world and all the strong people submit to me. It's not as good as a smile from my beloved wife. Jiang Tian said through his divine sense. You're so full of yourself. Chinga rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian, her eyes full of tenderness and sweetness. After a long time, Qingming sighed faintly and said, go to sleep. We'll leave Jinling at dawn and head south to see if we can sneak into Southeast Asia. We'll be safe once we escape abroad. I'll cover you with a quilt. It's so cold today. Qingming whispered something and he yelled again, just cover me. I'm not afraid of the cold. I'll cut you if you keep talking like an old woman. They waited for more than an hour. Suddenly, 2 off-road vehicles with Northeast license plates sped over. They didn't turn on the lights and drove over under the white light reflected by the snow. The vehicles stopped and the doors opened and closed silently. 8 short men got out of the vehicles and surrounded a samurai dressed in a kimono and wooden clogs. They quietly approached the cave. The 8 big men were all wearing black suits with straight collars and black trousers. They had fierce eyes and intimidating temperaments. Most of them had knife scars on their faces. At first glance, one could tell that they weren't good people. Kacha, kacha. The sound of bullets being loaded and katanas being unsheathed rang out softly. Under the reflection of the white snow, the cold light flashed. Cheng, to get up. Suddenly, Qingming kicked his son, pulled out a machete, and rushed toward the door. Cheng-san, we meet again. The leading samurai had a shoehorn face and a rindan beard. He held the scabbard in his hand and his eyes were extremely cold. Chiba Zhengyi. Cheng-ming was shocked when he saw the newcomer. His face turned pale and he subconsciously pulled his son back a step. Chiba Zhengyi was a kendo master of Beichen One-Blade School and ranked in the top 30 in Japan. Japanese kendo was divided into Grand Master, Master, Sword Master, and Swordsman according to their cultivation level. Their strength corresponded to Hua Xia's immortal state, transcendent state, internal force, and iron body. Chen Yizhengyi was a kendo grandmaster of the Beichen One-Blade School. He was as powerful as a transcendent state grandmaster and was able to hold his own against Hua Xia's Hong Tianzhao and Mo Haoxiong. Masaichi Chiba had 2 identities. He was the president of the Yamaguchi-gumi Inagawakai and a member of the Sakura Kai. The Inagawakai, on the other hand, had tens of thousands of desperados under its banner, controlling hundreds of clubs, custom shops, baths, and soup houses. Its assets were worth 100 billion yen, which was equivalent to 10 billion Hua Xia yuan. He had a high status in Japan and had even been elected as a member of parliament. He was on equal footing with the mayor of Osaka. Cheng sang, hand over the real gem. Qian Yizhengyi straightened his back and stood there like a javelin, revealing his sharpness as he said with a hideous grin, "Otherwise, I can only kill you. All 5 gems have been handed over to you." Cheng Ming said angrily, "What else do you want? Do you have to kill us all?" "That is a lie. You cunning Huaxia monkey. You deserve to die." Qinya Jingyi said angrily. "Dad, don't waste your time talking to them. Kill them and avenge my mother." Cheng Yi's eyes were bloodshot as he charged forward. Qinya Jingyi was the murderer who had raped and murdered his mother. Cheng Yi wanted nothing more than to tear him into pieces and grind his bones to dust. "Jingyi, shut up!" Cheng Ming bellowed. Tears welled up in his eyes as he begged, "Grandmaster Qinya, I have given you everything. If you don't believe me, you can search my luggage." He wanted revenge as well, but he knew that he was no match for Qinya Jingyi. "Humph! Why would you carry such a treasure around with you? What if you hid it somewhere else? You don't want to hand it over? I think you Huaxia people are pigs. You only know how to eat but not learn. I will chop off your son's limbs and turn him into a human stick. He will beg for death." Qinya Jingyi's eyes were murderous. He slowly pulled out his long saber and slashed at Cheng Yi like a waterfall. The slash was like a howling wind with a series of sonic booms. The light from the saber reflected the white snow. It was as if heaven and earth were overshadowed by the cold light. It could be said that the lethality of this slash was absolutely no less than that of a martial arts grandmaster. The Qing father and son could not resist it at all. At the critical moment, Cheng Ming flashed out and knocked his son more than 3 meters away. He raised his saber in front of him to block the slash. The sharp saber aura cut the machete in his hand in the blink of an eye and was about to cut his face. In an instant, many images flashed through Cheng Ming's mind. His parents' gratified smiles when he stepped onto the iron body, his beloved wife's coquettish and shy smile on their wedding night, his martial brothers congratulating him when his son was born, and he was so happy that he bumped and jumped around like a child. "Son, Dad is going to die here today. You must live well." Cheng Ming's heart was filled with sorrow and despair. But at that moment, bang, there was a loud explosion and a white light flashed. The condensed saber aura suddenly collapsed. "What? I can actually block this slash?" Cheng Ming took a step back, his face full of disbelief. "What kind of hidden weapon is that? It's so powerful." Qinya Jingyi, on the other hand, saw that someone had used a hidden weapon to break the saber aura. He quickly glanced around but did not see any hidden weapons. He suddenly realized that it was a snowball. The other party had broken his saber aura with a ball of soft snow. "Who is it? Come out." At that moment, Qinya Jingyi was so shocked that his heart tightened. He vigilantly glanced around and shouted with full vigilance, "Little Japanese, how dare you make trouble in Jinling? Do you want to die?" A cold and stern voice was heard. Everyone saw 2 figures slowly walking over from the dense forest. "Who are you? Don't meddle in other people's business." Qinya Jingyi carefully sized up Jiang Tian and was on full alert. He frowned and scolded him. "Oh, my name is Jiang Tian. I'm Cheng Yi's classmate. My father is a deputy director and my mother is the chairman of a listed company. Many clubs in Jinling are my subordinates." Jiang Tian said slowly. "Hee, so you're a rich second-generation heir. Huaxia's rich second-generation heirs are really as stupid as the internet said. You scared me to death." A Yamaguchi-gumi member behind him laughed while holding his stomach. "Idiot." Cheng Ming secretly snorted. He thought to himself, "You didn't leave when we asked you to. You're courting death, so don't blame us. With your identity, you can show off in the secular world. But that guy is a kendo master and a member of Yamaguchi-gumi. He dares to kill anyone. Since when did he care about a deputy director? Besides, you're just his son." This is really... Qinya Jingyi was also speechless. The young man was calm and bold. He thought that he had a powerful background, but after careful inspection, he found that he didn't have the unique aura of a Huaxia martial artist. It turned out that he was a rich second-generation heir from the secular world. Cheng Ming should have blocked his attack just now, not him. Forget it. I'll let you go for your father's sake. Get out of here." Qianya Jingyi waved his hand helplessly as if he was driving a fly away. After all, he was the son of an official. Once he was killed, the Huaxia government would pay close attention to it. It would be very disadvantageous for Yamaguchi-gumi's future operations in Huaxia. Let me go? What are you kidding about? Hand over the gemstone, or I'll kill you. Jiang Tian said coldly. This time, Qianya Jingyi was annoyed. He gave him face, but he didn't want it. Shoot, kill him. Qianya Jingyi gritted his teeth and waved his hand ruthlessly. Several Yamaguchi-gumi members immediately raised their pistols and were about to shoot. But Qinya wouldn't give them the chance to shoot. Get out of here. Qinya shouted and raised her right hand. She waved it slowly as if she was swatting a fly. Boom. A tremendous and irresistible force shot out like a rocket, spreading out in all directions. This tremendous force was like an immortal drawing land into a river. Snow, ice, and millstone-sized rocks were all pushed out, flying in all directions. This force forcefully plowed open a large hole about 3 meters wide in the ground, extending for more than 10 meters. In front of this terrifying force that was like a bulldozer, the 8 Yamaguchi-gumi members were directly turned into minced meat. They completely disappeared on the spot, leaving no trace. Even the katanas and pistols in their hands were turned into oddly shaped scrap metal. Qinya hated it when she attacked Jiang Tian. She didn't hold back at all with this wave of her sleeve. She fully displayed the strength of the immortal body of the stainless phoenix. Not good. The moment Qinya made her move, Qianya Jingyi's heart was filled with warning signs. He slashed out 10 times in a row, forming a sword aura seal, wanting to block this terrifying force. Crack, bang. But the sword aura collapsed like paper and he flew more than 10 meters away like a scarecrow. He staggered and fell to the ground. His kimono was torn into pieces and his clogs were gone. His skin and flesh were lacerated and dripping with blood. There was a dead silence. The father and son of the Qing family were horrified. They looked at Qinya in disbelief as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. It was a mess in front of them. It was as if a bulldozer had pushed through, a heavy artillery bombardment, or a typhoon had passed through. How could such a delicate girl have such terrifying strength with just a wave of her sleeve? Amazing! Madame Zhang's real strength is probably at the peak of the transcendent state. Cheng Ming swallowed a mouthful of saliva with a dull look in his eyes. I don't know. I'm not powerful. My husband taught me. Qinya blushed and smiled shyly. She seemed a little embarrassed. Mr. Jiang taught you? Then Mr. Jiang. Cheng Ming looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. He felt that his brain was not enough to process it. Qinya was so powerful, but her cultivation was taught by Jiang Tian. How powerful was Jiang Tian? He couldn't imagine Jiang Tian's strength at all. Cheng Yi also opened his mouth wide and couldn't close it for a long time. There was a faint envy in his heart. Qinya was so powerful and virtuous. Jiang Tian was really lucky. Your Wu Dao Grand Masters. Chiba Jingyi looked at Jiang Tian in horror and seemed to understand something. He suddenly exclaimed, Your surname is Jiang? The Medicine King group belongs to your family, right? You're Kong Teichu, the #1 master under the immortal state in Huaxia. You know what's good for you. Jiang Tian didn't deny it. You dare to kill me? I'm the president of the Yamaguchi-gumi Inagawa Kai and a member of the Cherry Blossom Kai. I have tens of thousands of people under my command. Hearing this, Chiba Jingyi felt a chill all over his body and threatened fiercely. He hadn't decided whether to insist on fighting to the death with the Bushido spirit or turn around and run away. How dare you threaten me? You're courting death. Qinya had already shouted. She raised her hand and flicked her finger, but the finger light missed. Cherry Blossom Kai? So what? We'll kill as many as you come. Chapter 297. How dare you kill me? Chiba Jingyi roared as he lowered his body into a horse stance. His feet sunk 3 inches into the ground, and he swung his katana wildly, sending out several sharp blade auras to block the attack. These katana projections seemed to be able to cut through metal, but they were all useless in the face of the immortal body of the immortal Phoenix Maiden. Bam! The katana projections and katana instantly shattered as if they had been hit by a high-speed bullet train. Boom! Chiba Jingyi was struck in the chest by the finger projection, and he spat out a mouthful of blood before falling to the ground like a dead dog. His chest was shattered, and his bones were exposed. He had completely lost the ability to fight back. Uncle Cheng, Cheng-yi, don't you hate him? Now is the time for revenge. Go. Jiang Tian said calmly. Cheng-yi picked up a machete and stepped forward. Fuck you, Japanese. Didn't you say you were going to turn me into a human stick? Come on. Shinsen, I know I was wrong. Spare me just this once. Chiba Jingyi begged pitifully. Fuck, so you Japanese also know how to beg for mercy? Where's the spirit of a samurai? Cheng-yi roared viciously as he swung his machete. One of Chiba Jingyi's legs was chopped off, and blood gushed out like a fountain amidst a blood-curdling scream. This is retribution for killing my mother. Cheng-yi's body was covered in blood as he swung his machete again. Boom! Chiba Jingyi's other leg was also chopped off. Don't kill me! Spare me! I'm begging you! He let out a blood-curdling scream as his entire body trembled in pain. However, his arms and hands were still struggling to crawl away, and the blood gushing out of his wounds left streaks of bright red on the snowy ground. Aren't you badass? Aren't your Yamaguchi-gumi mighty? Don't beg for mercy, stand up and fight me. Cheng-yi's eyes were bloodshot as he chased after Chiba Jingyi and chopped off his right arm. Chiba Jingyi let out a blood-curdling scream as his eyes rolled back and he fainted from the pain. Coward, this won't do. Cheng-yi stabbed Chinya Jingyi's chest again and again, almost turning him into a pile of minced meat. Then he knelt on the ground and kowtowed towards the northwest. He wailed, Mother, I've finally avenged you. Mother of my child, if you know this in the underworld, you can rest in peace. Cheng Ming also knelt on the ground, tears rolling down his cheeks. When the two of them were almost done venting their emotions, Jiang Tian casually shot out a few fireball talismans, burning the corpses into ashes. Uncle Cheng, do you dare to stay in a hotel now? Jiang Tian looked at the stunned father and son of the Cheng family and asked with a smile. With you here, what are we afraid of? Cheng Yi stood up and grinned, revealing his white teeth. Cheng Ming asked with a shocked expression, Jiang Tian, he just called you Kang Teichu. Master Kang. Yes, it's me. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. So it's Master Kang. I didn't recognize your face. Please forgive me. Cheng Ming broke out in a cold sweat when he heard that. He became even more respectful and pulled Cheng Yi to kneel before Jiang Tian. He was just a martial artist with initial success in internal force. Compared to Jiang Tian, who was invincible in Huaxia, he had no power to fight back. Chinya Jingyi was so powerful that he was equivalent to a martial arts grandmaster in Huaxia. He was much stronger than Cheng Ming, but Jiang Tian's wife killed him with a finger. What about Jiang Tian, who taught Zhao Xueqing his cultivation? Cheng Ming didn't dare to imagine. In particular, he was quite disrespectful to Jiang Tian just now. It was said that a grandmaster couldn't be insulted. If Jiang Tian wanted to make a fuss, he could kill Cheng Ming with a slap. Thinking of this, Cheng Ming was even more frightened. His head was on the ground, and he didn't dare to look Jiang Tian in the eye. Hey, Uncle Cheng, get up. You're killing me. Jiang Tian quickly pulled the two up and smiled gently. Cheng Yi and I have known each other since we were children. Cheng even blocked a knife for me. In my heart, Cheng Yi is my brother, and you're also my elder. Grandmaster Jiang, how can I do that? Just now, I looked down on you and said all kinds of nasty things. Please don't take it to heart. Just treat it as me. I have a foul mouth that ate shit and was farting. Hearing Jiang Tian's words, the father and son of the Cheng family were so moved that they almost shed tears. Cheng Ming was even more speechless. Damn, Sky Stone. My luck can't be that good. Jiang Tian smiled and scanned the ground with his divine sense. He was shocked to find 5 crystals. Of the 5 stones, 4 were chalcedony, which could be used to refine some offensive or defensive magic tools. One of them was a sky stone used to refine storage rings in the cultivation world. Moreover, this sky stone was the size of a child's fist. It could be refined into at least 2 storage rings, one for himself and one for Qingya. He was just right. However, Jiang Tian wasn't the kind of person to take advantage of others. He especially wouldn't take advantage of his friends. He collected all the crystals and said with a smile, "Uncle Cheng, which ones are yours? Take them. These 4 are ours, but Master Kong, if you need them for your cultivation, just take them." Cheng Ming hurriedly said. It could be said that Jiang Tian had saved their lives and helped them take revenge for the extermination of their family. How could 4 chalcedony repay Jiang Tian's kindness? "This sky stone isn't yours?" Jiang Tian picked up the sky stone and asked. This little Japanese guy probably snatched it from another family. It might even belong to them. The Qing father and son shook their heads together. "Well, I'll keep this sky stone and help you carve the remaining 4 into magic tools. I'll give them to you tomorrow. Let's go," Jiang Tian said with a smile. Soon, Qing'er drove the car and sent the 2 of them to Emperor International. Jiang Tian left and made an appointment to meet the next day. Cheng Ming respectfully escorted Jiang Tian to the parking lot and watched as Jiang Tian and the others drove 100 meters away. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and say, "Oh my God, we really came close to the gates of hell today." He turned his head and looked at the dazed Cheng Yi. He patted him on the shoulder and sighed. "Son, you have to understand that Master Kong is not on the same level as us. Even if our family is at its peak, we're just ants and dust compared to Master Kong." "Is he really that powerful?" Cheng Yi asked with a complicated expression. The number 1 Grandmaster on the divine list in Huaxia and the leader of the Heavenly Alliance. He overpowered many powerhouses in Southeast Asia and forced the powerhouses of the Dark World to retreat to Big Turtle Island. Today, how many people in Huaxia can stand shoulder to shoulder with Master Kong? Cheng Ming was deeply moved and said meaningfully, "When you see Master Kong in the future, you can no longer call him brother. It's already your great fortune and our family's blessing that you got to know him when you were young. In China, who knows how many people want to meet Grandmaster Jiang, but it's difficult." "What's the Heavenly Alliance?" Cheng Yi was puzzled. Cheng Ming stepped on the snow and pulled his son toward the hotel lobby. He said, "There's a Heavenly Alliance headed by Master Kong. Its members are all Grandmasters, including Hu Qingtian, Wei Feilong, and Zhao Yuankuan." "What about the Yamaguchi-gumi?" Cheng Yi was a little worried. "Yamaguchi-gumi is nothing." Cheng Ming curled his lips and said disdainfully, "With Master Kang's strength, it's fine if he doesn't touch them. But once he does, he'll beat them to a pulp. If the Yamaguchi-gumi knows that our Chung family is now under Master Kong, they'll be scared to death. Master Kong is now the number 1 on the divine list." At this time, Jiang Tian had returned to his villa and was laughing so hard that his mouth almost reached his ears. "Why are you smiling like a fool?" Qing'er asked curiously. "My dear wife, this is a treasure." Jiang Tian introduced it with a smile. "This stone is so magical?" Qing'er couldn't believe it, and then said with a smile, "That's great. It'll be very convenient for you to carry a flying sword in the future." Jiang Tian immediately began to refine it with Qing'er. Jiang Tian's demonic flame attack was very powerful, but when it came to refining weapons, it was actually inferior to Qing'er's Li Fire. Li Fire was comparable to the Samadhi True Fire. It was very powerful in terms of killing, refining weapons, and refining pills. She had no choice but to pull Qing'er along and have her spit out Li Fire to help. First, she used Li Fire to melt the stone, remove the impurities, and further condense it. Then, she cooled it under the control of her divine sense to form a ring embryo. Then, she engraved various concealment and spatial arrays. When the sky turned white, it finally took shape. "How big is it inside?" Zhao Xueqing asked curiously. Jiang Tian scanned inside with his divine sense and said, "Yours is more than 300 cubic meters. Mine is dozens of cubic meters." "Huh? 300 cubic meters? Isn't that the size of a house?" Qing'er's eyes widened. Jiang Tian nodded. He thought to himself, this isn't considered big. In the outer space, the storage bags and interspatial rings of some powerful cultivators can even hold a mountain. No, honey, this is not good. Qinger said, why don't you wear the big one? Jiang Tian quickly shook his head and said, dozens of cubic meters is enough for me. I only need to store elixirs and magic weapons. You can also store some clothes, cosmetics, and so on. Girls have a lot of things. Besides, this style doesn't suit me. I'll laugh to death if I take it out. According to Qinger's suggestion, Jiang Tian made Qinger's storage ring into a little white rabbit. Because Qinger was a rabbit, Jiang Tian would be too sissy to wear such a style. Then I'll see if I can put the white ape bone zither in it. Qinger silently chanted an incantation and moved her divine sense. Suddenly, the white ape bone zither disappeared with a whoosh. But this is fun. This is so fun. Can it transform into a living person? Qinger laughed. That won't work. The storage space can't store living things. Otherwise, their life will be cut off. Jiang Tian laughed. Honey, I'll try putting a Rolls-Royce in it. Qinger happily ran to the yard to play. Although making the storage ring consumed a lot of true essence and divine sense, and Jiang Tian was a little tired, since he had promised the father and son of the Chung family, Jiang Tian kept his promise. He forced himself to continue carving the jade essence. At noon, he finally finished carving. Jiang Tian swallowed an elixir and meditated for a while to recover his true essence and divine sense as much as possible. During dinner, Jiang Tian went to the Emperor Club where the father and son of the Qing family were staying. He planned to give them the 4 jade talisman magical items. These 4 jade talismans had the function of defense, anti-poison, and body protection. They also had a small spirit gathering array. If they wore it daily, it could help them with their cultivation. Chapter 298. The other 2 were thunder talismans that could be used multiple times. At least in Hua Xia's current cultivation world, they could be considered top-notch magic tools. Grandmaster Jiang, we will never forget your great kindness. Cheng Ming was so grateful that he shed tears and bowed his head. Magic tools were too precious. It could be said that although the chalcedony was very valuable, it was like trash in their hands. Now, after Master Kang's skillful carving, the chalcedony immediately turned into a priceless magic tool. He really felt that he was too lucky, or rather, his son was too lucky to have met a master like Jiang Tian. After helping him up, Jiang Tian finally had time to ask them about their encounter. Cheng Ming recounted his life as a fugitive. When he talked about his anger, he slammed the table and cursed. When he talked about his sadness, he cried. When he talked about the current situation of the Chung family, he sighed. In the end, he looked at Jiang Tian gratefully and choked with sobs. This is great. With Master Kang's help, I'm not afraid of the Yamaguchi-gumi. Our Cheng family's lifeline is saved and there's hope of reviving the family. Jiang Tian frowned and asked, Uncle Cheng, who exactly is the Li Jinju that you mentioned who helped you out of a sense of justice? Oh, Li Jinju is from the Li family of South Korea's Tanjung branch. Tanjung in South Korea is equivalent to the Laozi of Hua Xia and Confucius and Mencius. He's the ancestor of Taoism and Confucianism. Confucianism governs the country and regulates the family, while Taoism strengthens the body through cultivation. The Li family is now very powerful in South Korea. Even the Samsung Li family in South Korea belongs to their branch. Cheng Ming explained, Li Jinju's father once went to Hua Xia for an activity and was chased by several Japanese enemies and was seriously injured. I happened to run into him, so I defeated the enemy and saved him. He was very grateful and called me brother. Moreover, we were betrothed before we were born. Li Jinju is now considered Qing Yi's fiancé. At this moment, a trace of shyness appeared on Qing Yi's face as he said, Actually, Li Jinju is gentle, kind, and beautiful. Moreover, she's from a rich and powerful family. Our Cheng family has been ruined to such an extent that we really can't afford to associate with her. We've already proposed to annul this marriage, and the Li family has also agreed. Well, now she and Cheng Yi call each other brother and sister. Cheng Ming added, How beautiful! Jiang Tian asked with a smile. In South Korea, there is a goddess festival. It's a traditional festival where they choose the most beautiful girl from all over the country. Li Jinju has been chosen as a goddess for 3 consecutive years ever since she came of age. Cheng Yi's face showed a trace of pride. Oh. Jiang Tian nodded. Cheng Yi continued, she's really kind to our Cheng family. She often sends me money and asks about our well-being. She's especially concerned about us, father and son. Unfortunately, I'm not good enough for them. She often asks about your well-being. Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. Did you notice that every time you told her where you escaped, the Yamaguchi-gumi would follow you? Cheng Yi was slightly stunned, then he pretended to be relaxed and smiled. How is that possible? Cheng Ming's eyes darted around. Suddenly, he was shocked and said angrily, that's true. Could it be that this woman doesn't care about us at all, but has been spying on and passing information to the Yamaguchi-gumi? Although the Yamaguchi-gumi is powerful, it's impossible for them to infiltrate the hotel to the point where they immediately know that you're staying. Jiang Tian said lightly, moreover, you've been living in the wilderness since then. Other than Li Jinju, no one else knows about it. How could they follow you so quickly? Last night, an hour after you slept, Chiba Jingyi and the rest were already here. This reaction speed, tsk. Sensing his father's gaze on him, Cheng Yi said dejectedly, I contacted Li Jinju before I went to bed last night. I told her that we're staying in Mount Wu and told her not to worry. She really did it. Cheng Ming slammed the table and shouted angrily. Then, he said in confusion, that's not right. Japan has invaded South Korea many times in history. As the elite organizations of their respective countries, the Tanjung Branch and the Sakura Society are mortal enemies. Why would Li Jinju pass information to them? I'm afraid that Li Jinju has already been controlled by them. Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. There were too many ways to turn an enemy into a loyal slave, such as the spiritual steel seal in the cultivation world, or his control of Su Ruoqing's ecstasy. He could even turn the other party into his own clone. Although the cultivators on Earth were not that powerful, there were a few eccentric people who could use secret techniques to control the other party's thoughts and consciousness. Master Kong, what should we do? Qing Ming asked. If we don't get to the bottom of this matter, I'm afraid it'll always be a knot in your hearts. How about this? You arrange a meeting with Li Jinju and tell her that you'll give the chalcedony directly to her. She should show up. Jiang Tian said lightly. But the father and son of the Chung family nodded. Cheng immediately called Li Jinju and said, Jinju, I was hunted down by Yamaguchi-gumi again today. Appa, are you hurt? Jinju is really worried. Li Jinju spoke Chinese fluently. Her voice was soft and pleasant, full of concern. I was hurt a little, but I managed to escape. Cheng Yi pretended to be very sad and sighed. Jinju, I'm afraid that I can't protect the gem anymore. I want to give it to you. No matter what, it can't fall into the hands of Yamaguchi-gumi. That's not appropriate. That's your Cheng family's heirloom, Li Jinju said hesitantly. But I want to give it to you. I want to hand it over to you personally. I don't know when they will come again. Cheng Yi insisted. Okay, then I'll fly to Jinling Huaxia. I'll be able to see you tomorrow. Jinju is really looking forward to it. Li Jinju finally agreed. The next night, the father and son of Cheng Yi called Jiang Tian. Li Jinju had arrived in Jinling and wanted to meet with Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian immediately met up with the two of them and rushed to the meeting location. At this time, it had been snowing for a day and night. The entire Jinling was covered in snow, and it looked like a world of jade. Li Jinju was very careful. She chose a private clubhouse called Baitsuan Korean House. This private clubhouse was located at the edge of the Qinhuai River. It's a high-class clubhouse in Jinling, and it's expensive. In Jiang Tian's view, this should be a stronghold of the Li family or Li Jinju. The interior of the clubhouse was built according to South Korea's classical architectural style. Mud, stone, and straw were used to create a natural feeling. White Korean paper was pasted on the windows, and red lanterns were hung under the eaves. The interior of the room was paved with solid wood, and there was a heated brick bed. The young women who came and went were all dressed in classic Korean clothing. They were polite and had gentle and shy smiles on their faces, as if they were from the great Cheongjin dynasty. When the customers walked in, it felt like they had entered the Silla kingdom of the Southern dynasty. Under the guidance of two maids dressed in elegant Korean clothing, Jeong Tion and the Chung family's father and son walked into the clubhouse. As Jeong Tion walked, he sized up the surroundings. Suddenly, his sword-like brows raised, and a wisp of ridicule appeared on the corners of his mouth. Even though it was already the coldest day of the year and water droplets would turn into ice, the moment Jeong Tion pushed open the door and entered, he immediately felt warm. They saw a woman wearing a business suit with her back facing Jeong Tion and the others. She was kneeling on a praying mat, using a pair of large scissors to cut the meat and grilling it on the iron plate on the short marble platform. Beside her were a plate of kimchi, a stone pot of rice, and a bottle of Korean-style soju. Although her back was facing the crowd, just by looking at her curvy waist and buttocks, as well as her snow-white tender neck and the snow-white calves under her butt, one could tell that this girl was definitely a first-class beauty. Beside her was an old man in a kimono with a katana placed on his knees. His aura was as deep as the ocean, and his eyes were flickering with light. "Appa, you're here." Hearing the sound of the door opening, Lee Jinju jumped up happily and hurriedly wiped the grease from the corner of her mouth. She lowered her head and smiled shyly. "I just got off the plane and was too hungry, so I ate a little first. I'm sorry." Her height was 1.7 meters when she was barefoot. Her figure was curvy and exquisite, her facial features were delicate, and her skin was fair. Especially when she smiled, revealing two deep dimples. She looked indescribably naive and cute. The moment her smile bloomed, it was like 100 flowers blooming, making the whole room bright and beautiful. "It's okay, girl. Just eat if you're hungry. We're old friends, so there's no need to follow the rules." Cheng Yi already had a grudge in his heart, so he pulled a long face and didn't speak. Cheng Ming, on the other hand, was an experienced man, so he laughed as if nothing had happened. "Everyone, please take a seat. If you haven't eaten yet, let's eat together." Lee Jinju quickly said enthusiastically. Her eyes swept over Jeong Tion, but she didn't care too much. She just thought that Jeong Tion was a helper or follower of the Chung family. After Jeong Tion, the father and son of the Chung family took their seats, Lee Jinju enthusiastically poured wine and barbecued meat for everyone and chatted with the three of them. She looked at them with her beautiful eyes and whispered with a smile. She was as gentle as water and very amiable, which made the atmosphere very good. Finally, she couldn't hold back her temper and asked with a sweet smile, "Uncle Cheng, where's the chalcedony? Don't worry and leave it to me. The Lee family is protected by Tanjuan's lineage. It will never fall into the hands of the Yamaguchi-gumi." The father and son of the Chung family didn't speak. They just looked at Jeong Tion. Jeong Tion smiled faintly and took out an egg-sized space stone from his storage ring. He smiled and said, "Is this what you want?" The kimono-clad man's eyes suddenly bloomed with sharp cold light. He asked with a ferocious face, "Why do you have the spiritual stone that my junior brother, Chiba Jingyi, got? And why did you use half of it?" When the samurai said this, the father and son of the Chung family realized that Lee Jinju was indeed in cahoots with the Yamaguchi-gumi. The two of them couldn't help but be angry. However, they knew that they had to rely on Jeong Tion today, so they could only suppress their anger and watch coldly from the sidelines. "Idiot, this is called the Space Stone. It can be used to make storage magic treasures." Jeong Tion said lazily, "That's right. I killed that bullshit Chiba Jingyi. I have already used this space stone to make a storage ring. This is all that's left." Jeong Tion flipped his hand, and the small piece of space stone immediately disappeared without a trace. It was stored in his storage ring. At this moment, Chiba Jingyi's sinister eyes suddenly became greedy and scorching. He was so excited that his whole body trembled. "Storage ring, this is a storage ring. I never thought that such a magic treasure existed in this world." Chapter 299. In the cultivation world, almost everyone had one or even a few space-type magical treasures. It was very common. But on Earth, it could be said to be a priceless treasure. It had never appeared in modern times. First of all, Dharma treasures were hard to come by. Second of all, even if you could find the materials, only a handful of people could make it. This kind of Dharma treasure was too coveted. It could be said to be a great cheating device. For example, if an ordinary person met a transcendent grandmaster, the transcendent grandmaster would let his guard down. However, if an ordinary person were to pull out an assault rifle from his storage ring, the transcendent grandmaster would be killed instantly. Chiba Masao was looking for the so-called chalcedony because he wanted to refine this kind of magic treasure. He knew how great the benefits of having such a storage ring were. It could be said that with his great success in kendo, he could almost do whatever he wanted in the world. Mr. Jiang, give this treasure to Mr. Chiba. Otherwise, you will die a horrible death. Seeing Chiba Masao was about to make a move, Li Jinju signaled him to stay put and tried to persuade him with a smile. Chiba Masao suppressed his desire to kill and steal the treasure. His eyes were burning with murderous intent as he glared at Jiang Tian. After all, they were in Huaxia, a busy city with many surveillance cameras. Even if he could escape unscathed after killing Chen Fan, he would still be targeted if he wanted to move about in Huaxia. Is that so? Why can't I see anything special about him? He is just an old man. Jiang Tian took a sip of wine and said lightly, "Humph. He is a kendo grandmaster of the Beichen one-blade style, and a phenomenal success-level kendo grandmaster. He can even stop a waterfall with one slash. Is your neck that hard? Aren't you afraid of his chrysanthemum leaf tattoo pill?" Li Jinju lifted her chin, revealing her slender neck. She looked at Jiang Tian as if she was looking at an idiot. Hee, is that so? As far as I know, the best swordsman in Japan is called a great teacher. If there are a few great teachers, I might be able to take action. As for this old trash, he's not worth my time at all. Jiang Tian said disdainfully. What a reckless brat. He doesn't know the principle of not showing off his wealth. He stole Qinya Jingyi's treasure and even dared to show it in front of his senior brother. He actually dares to speak such arrogant words. Does he want to die? When Li Jinju heard this, her heart was filled with disdain. Her face suddenly sank, but she immediately smiled sweetly. Her jade-white hands played with the glass of wine as she looked at Jiang Tian with a face full of ridicule and disdain. Indeed, Chiba Masao was much more powerful than Chiba Jingyi. He was a kendo grandmaster, which was equivalent to Hua Xia's transcendent state of martial arts. He was a veteran grandmaster, and not many people in Huaxia could stop him. What's more, Jiang Tian seemed to be just a second-generation rich kid who couldn't even trust a chicken. Give it to me. Chiba Masao didn't say a word as he reached out his hand and snatched the treasure from Chen Fan. Get out of my face. Jiang Tian pointed a finger at Chiba Masao, and the finger aura missed its target. Suddenly, a powerful surge of chi shot back at Chiba Masao. Boom! Chiba Masao felt as if he had been hit in the chest by a cannonball. He let out a blood-curdling scream as he was sent flying through the air like a rag doll. He crashed through the door and landed on the snowy ground in the yard like a dead dog. Jiang Tian's finger aura didn't slow down at all. It continued to expand like a cannonball. Boom! The floor exploded, forming a large hole more than 10 meters long that extended all the way to the door. All the windows were shattered in an instant. Shreds of paper fluttered in the air, and water and wood exploded everywhere. What? He is a martial arts master. Li Jinju's mouth was wide open, her clear and beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment, and her delicate body was trembling slightly. Masao Chiba was one of the top kendo masters in Japan. He was the disciple of Ryujiro Chiba, the kendo grandmaster. He was the cornerstone of the Beichen one-blade school. There were only a handful of kendo grandmasters in Japan who could defeat him. However, Jiang Tian had easily knocked him away. Jiang Tian took a sip of soju before slamming the cup on the table. He shook his head in disdain. Your South Korea's bamboo charcoal soju isn't tasty enough. It's like diluted ergot. Baka. Who dares to behave atrociously in our Yamaguchi-gumi's territory? Bastard! Kill him. In the yard, 5 or 6 Japanese kendo masters dressed as samurai rushed over when they saw Chiba Masao was sent flying. There were also Yamaguchi-gumi members in black shirts and pants. Some of them were holding pistols while others were holding swords. They glared at Jiang Tian and roared with killing intent. Chiba Masao struggled to his feet with the help of a disciple. He shook his head and gripped the hilt of his katana tightly. He glared at Jiang Tian and roared, "Baka, hand over your storage ring and jade essence or I will kill you." Huh, you Japanese are really arrogant and don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Jiang Tian's face darkened as he sneered. Do you think that Huaxia is still in the era of the Republic of China? How dare you come to Huaxia to kill me and steal my treasures? I think Huaxia has been too friendly to you and spoiled you. He stood there as steady as a boulder and sneered, "Very good, come and snatch it. Today, I will let you all understand what is the true Huaxia martial Dao and what is a true powerhouse." Jiang Tian was born and raised in Jinling. His great-grandfather's generation of more than a dozen people had been killed by the Japanese invaders. He had been influenced since he was young by his grandfather's stories of the Japanese massacres in Jinling and how his ancestors fought against the Japanese and saved the country. It could be said that even after 10,000 years of cultivation, he still had a deep-seated hatred for the Japanese. Everyone was responsible for the rise and fall of the country. As a descendant of the Yellow Emperor, how could he sit by and watch the Japanese invaders commit crimes in Huaxia? At that moment, he had already unleashed his killing intent. He was going to kill every single Japanese in the clubhouse today. Not a single one of them would be spared. I am very good at robbing. My ancestor was a Japanese military swordsmanship instructor. He burned, killed, and looted in Jinling back then. It was so satisfying. All right, I will show you today. Chiba Masao roared. His eyes flashed as his aura rose. He gripped the hilt of his katana tightly and pulled it out at a seemingly slow speed. The katana's scabbard was mottled with paint and the hilt was black and shiny from the sweat and blood. However, no one in the Japanese kendo community dared to underestimate this katana. This katana was called Kikuyanmar. It was made by the Japanese Kendo Obata and had a history of over 100 years. The ancestor of the Chiba family had used this katana to conquer Kyushu and killed more than a dozen kendo masters, establishing the Beichin one-blade style. Even the transcendent grandmasters in Huaxia and the Western superpowered users would be terrified when they heard the name of this katana. A sharp sound came up. Chiba Masao leaped into the air and slashed down with the Kikuyanmar like the Milky Way. Beichin one-blade style, 1,000 piles of snow. With this slash, the saber light stretched out like a raging wind sweeping up 1,000 piles of snow. The white light was more than 5 meters long. The blade aura was extremely dense. If Chiba Masao's slashes were like layers of blade shadows, then Chiba Masao's slashes were like a curtain of blade aura. Not even Hong Tianzhao's raging sea sword art, Tiangang sword array was this powerful. A monstrous murderous aura instantly enveloped a large area, causing the temperature in the Korean house to plummet. Li Jinju felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. She felt a strong pressure and her cheeks were about to be cut open by the sharp blade chi. Even breathing became difficult. He is so powerful. He is indeed the grand sensei of Japanese kendo. This 1,000 piles of snow might even be able to split open a huge rock. That arrogant Huaxia kid is dead meat. Many Japanese kendo masters and Yamaguchi-gumi members were shocked. They looked at the attack with admiration and exclaimed in unison. The 1,000 piles of snow blade aura flashed. Boom! After a loud noise, the roof and the wall were split open. Snowflakes fell and the cold wind blew in. Among the flying straw and dust, the sharp blade aura was like a bolt of lightning, slashing toward Jiang Tian with an indomitable aura. Hee, is this the supreme sword Dao of your East Sea? Beichin one-blade style? Jiang Tian used his divine sense to sense the blade aura. Then, a disdainful sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Japanese kendo, ninjutsu, and onmyoji all advocated the simultaneous advancement of the mind, chi, and body. It was just that they all focused on different things. However, at the end of the day, these Japanese ultimate arts were nothing more than the martial arts and spells that Su Fu, Jianjin, and the Japanese students who came to China to study during the Tang dynasty. Their aura is not called true qi, but chakra, which translates to energy. In Jiang Tian's eyes, the sword qi chakra he had unleashed was even weaker than the sword qi of the Chinese martial arts, and it couldn't be compared to the true essence of the cultivators. When the blade aura was about to land on his chest, Jiang Tian suddenly flicked his fingers as if he was playing a pipa. Dozens of white wind blades swept out. The wind blades were connected head to tail and were more than 10 meters long. They tumbled and rolled like angry dragons in the sky, easily shattering the thousand piles snow blade aura. Then, the wind blades danced in the air and rushed toward Chiba Masao as if they were sentient. Oh no! At this moment, Chiba Masao was alarmed. He didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so powerful. Moreover, he couldn't even tell if it was a spell or a martial art. There were so many wind blades that they could break his 1,000 piles of snow, and they seemed to be alive. 1,000 piles of snow. Broken sound waterfall. Whirlpool wheel. Ripple blade. Facing the wind blade dragon, Chiba Masao's face became more serious than ever before. Just like when he was practicing his swordsmanship under the waterfall in the past, he lowered his waist and sat in a horse stance. His legs were like iron pincers as he roared at the top of his lungs and slashed out 4 times in a row with his most powerful saber strikes. It was no exaggeration to say that he was confident that he could even split an armored vehicle in half with every slash of his blade. Chapter 300. Clang. Crack. The wind blade dragon collided with the 4 sharp blade auras. The sound was like a bomb explosion or a few speeding cars crashing together. It was ear-piercing, shocking, and complicated. Countless incomparably sharp streams of air shot out in all directions like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers. The East Asian people who were cheering for Masao Chiba were instantly in trouble. The air currents pierced through their chests and chopped off their limbs. It was like being shot by a machine gun. A few of them died. Those who were still alive fell to the ground and screamed. Hua Xia's martial artists are so powerful? Who are you? Chiba Masao was like a bloody gourd. He was covered in blood and slowly fell to the ground. His eyes were full of unwillingness. Let me tell you, my other name is Kong Teichu. Jiang Tian took a sip of wine with an extremely calm expression. It was as if killing a grandmaster swordsman whose name shook Japan was as simple as casually swatting an ant. Jiang Kongti, so I died in your hands. I'm convinced. A look of shock suddenly appeared on Chiba Masao's face. His entire body convulsed violently. His head tilted to one side and he died. Cheng Yi, kill those people in the courtyard. You can leave first. Jiang Tian said calmly. As long as they could figure out Li Jinju's true identity and cut off her connection with the Sakura Society and Yamaguchi Gumi, the Cheng father and son would be safe. Yes, Master Kong. Cheng Yi suppressed the shock in his heart and stood up, killing the Japanese in the courtyard one by one. Master Kong, this old man's family business is ruined. There's no place for me in the world. Can I be your disciple? Cheng Yi said respectfully with his fists clasped. All right, contact Yi Ziwei. You and your father will be responsible for guarding my Fairsky laboratory. From now on, you're members of the Heaven Alliance. Jiang Tian gladly agreed. The dragon subduing formation had yet to be completed. Although the enemy's invasion this time didn't cause any substantial damage, it was still dangerous. On the other hand, the father and son of the Cheng family were experts of the northeastern kicking fist. One of them was an internal force expert while the other was an iron body expert. Although they weren't the best, they were more than capable of guarding the Fairsky laboratory and fending off some assassins. Heavenly Alliance? Are we qualified to join the Heavenly Alliance? When Qing Ming heard this, he was so happy that he almost jumped up. He was so excited that his whole body trembled. That was the Heavenly Alliance. It was said that only transcendent grandmasters could join it. Even martial arts giants like Hu Qingtian and Wei Feilong were members. And now, he was able to fight side by side with them. After the father and son of the Chung family left, Jiang Tian leisurely looked at the trembling Li Jinju and said indifferently, "Li Jinju, you repaid kindness with enmity to the Chung family's father and son. You deserve to die. Master Kong, please spare my life." When Li Jinju heard this, her delicate body trembled violently. Her eyes were full of fear. She prostrated herself on the ground and kowtowed. "Master Kong, as long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to follow Master Kong for the rest of my life. I'll be loyal and will never betray you. I don't want to frame the Chung family, but I don't know why I can't control myself at all." "Well, that's why I didn't kill you." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Suddenly, he opened his 5 fingers and grabbed at Li Jinju's body. "Come out." Squeak. With an extremely sharp scream, a black shadow suddenly appeared on Li Jinju's face. The shadow seemed to have a face with a green face and fangs. It had a single eye and long hair. It opened its bloody mouth and roared desperately. It was almost incomparably ferocious. It struggled desperately as if it was unwilling to leave Li Jinju's body. "Humph, you're just a ghost general. Do you think you can escape from me?" Jiang Tian sneered and activated the chaos creation formula. Boom! With a sound, the ghost general was dragged out by Jiang Tian and smashed to the ground like a dead dog. As if it had sensed Jiang Tian's power, the ghost general turned back to its original form and ran away. "Hee, you still want to run away? Do you think you can run away?" Jiang Tian opened his mouth and sucked in abruptly. "Let go of me." The ghost general struggled in vain for a while before it collapsed into a cloud of black mist. Jiang Tian used the chaos creation formula and sucked it into his mouth like a whale swallowing a cow. "What is this? Why is it in my body?" Li Jinju was dumbfounded and her face turned pale. However, at the same time, she suddenly felt very relaxed and comfortable. The previous feeling of weakness and dizziness disappeared. Her body was warm and her mind was much clearer in an instant. Jiang Tian waved his hand and a wind blade shot out. Li Jinju's little suit skirt, snow-white shirt, and hollowed-out underwear were torn apart and fell to the ground. At this moment, this beautiful woman only had 2 pairs of black stockings left. Her full breasts, flat stomach, slender waist, perfectly round thighs, and snow-white skin were all exposed to the slightly cold air. "What? Is he going to take me? This is too impatient." For a moment, Li Jinju's mind was in a mess. She didn't even think about whether she should pretend to be reserved. However, the next moment she was horrified. She saw strange green lines all over her body, forming the terrifying image of a one-eyed giant ghost. "What is this? I've never had a tattoo." Li Jinju was about to faint. "It's just a small spell for the ghost general to possess the body." Jiang Tian took off his windbreaker and casually threw it to Li Jinju. He lightly said, "This ghost general has not reached the level of a ghost king. It has not cultivated a free body, so it can't casually possess a body. He could only choose a virgin profound Yin body and use chicken blood and cinnabar to draw runes on her body as a medium to take over her body and hide when she was unprepared. These runes usually don't appear, but when the ghost general is caught, the ghost chi will rush out. Some of the ghost chi will remain on the surface of the body and reveal itself." Li Jinju quickly wrapped the windbreaker around her snow-white body. Hearing this, her heart was even more frightened. Jiang Tian slowly said, "But you don't have to worry. When the ghost general's body is killed, the ghost chi will dissipate. These runes will also disappear in a moment." "Ah, it's really gone." Sure enough, after a moment, the green lines on her arm disappeared. She turned around and lifted her clothes to take a look. There was not a single trace left on her body. In fact, Li Jinju was also confused by Jiang Tian's words. But she knew that Jiang Tian had saved her, so she quickly knelt on the ground again and said, "Master Kong, thank you for helping me get rid of the ghost general. In the future, you will be my supreme master, and I will serve you faithfully." Lee Junju was the only legal successor of Tanjun's family in South Korea. She had a powerful background, but at this moment, she was as respectful as a servant. "Well, you are a smart person, and your nature is not bad." Jiang Tian said indifferently, "That ghost general has attached itself to your body and controlled your mind. You are like its agent, and you have to listen to its orders. Of course, it will also give you some simple supernatural powers. But the disadvantages of being possessed by an evil being outweigh the advantages. If you were not a virgin with the mysterious Yin body, your blood and qi would have declined, and your yang qi would have sunk. In the end, your internal organs would rot and you would die. Even with your current physique, I'm afraid you won't live to 30 years old." The more Li Junju listened, the more afraid she became. Suddenly, she felt a chill in her heart. She knelt on the ground again and kowtowed, "Mr. Jiang, please save our Tanjun's family. If Master Kong can defeat the Cherry Blossom Association, our Tanjun's family will worship Master Kong." For many years, the Cherry Blossom Association and Tanjun's family had been fighting fiercely. In the end, the Cherry Blossom Association won. 10 years ago, Tanjun had lost many experts and suffered a crushing defeat. However, the Cherry Blossom Association did not pursue the victory and eliminate Tanjun's family and the Li family. Instead, they shook hands and made peace with the Li family. They even offered to help the Tanjun's family and the Li family defeat their opponents and expand their territory and influence. But after Tanjun's Li family agreed to submit, the Cherry Blossom Association sent a grand onmyoji to hold a ceremony in the Li family's ancestral hall. It was during that ceremony that the Tanjun's Li family members drew runes on their bodies and held a sacrificial ceremony. Now, Li Junju recalled that among the many sacrificial statues, one was exactly the same as the ghost General Jiang Tian had just killed. After that, the Li family members seemed to have lost their souls. They were loyal to the Cherry Blossom Association like marionettes. Now, it seemed that the upper echelon of the Li family, including her grandfather and father, were also under the control of these ghosts. After understanding all this, the Cherry Blossom Association seemed like a demon to her. They were terrifying and powerful, and she was no match for them. And Jiang Tian was the #1 martial arts grandmaster on the divine roll in Huaxia, a terrifying existence who was ranked 3rd on the Imperial Slayer's roll. Even Apollo, one of the 12 sovereigns, was no match for him. How could she cling to such a thick thigh? "I don't have time right now. After the Spring Festival, I'll go with you to South Korea and help you eliminate the Cherry Blossom Association," Jiang Tian said coldly. "Master Kong, our Tanjun's Li family really can't wait." Li Junju pleaded with tears on her face. "Li Junju, what does the Li family's survival have to do with me?" Jiang Tian smiled coldly. "I'm already being very generous by being willing to help. What right do you have to ask me to do it as soon as possible?" "Master Kong." Li Junju was startled and quickly knelt on the ground. Now that Jiang Taichu's reputation had soared, and the title of the #1 guru in Huaxia was known all over the world, he was like a god, and his words were law. How could she dare to disobey him? How could she dare to guess Jiang Tian's thoughts? "I have gathered almost all the materials needed for the dragon taming formation. Next, I need the materials to reconstruct my body." After returning to the mansion, Jiang Tian pulled Qinger aside and said earnestly, "This time, I might have to travel all over Southeast Asia to eliminate Wang Chongyan and the Singapore Chinese Society. I'll leave Jinlin City to you." This was also the reason why Jiang Tian did not plan to go to South Korea to eliminate the Cherry Blossom Association. He needed to reconstruct his body and strengthen himself. He also needed to construct the dragon taming formation to protect his backyard. He had no idea how powerful the Cherry Blossom Association was, and he was not 100% confident. It was already the end of the year, and the Singapore International Calligraphy Conference and the Dharma Artifact Auction would be held soon. He had to go there to see if he could find the materials needed to reconstruct his body. Besides, Jiang Tian had killed many of the elites of the Singapore Chinese Society at the peak of Mount Everest. Both sides had a blood feud, and the conflict between them was irreconcilable. Jiang Tian's principle was to eliminate the root of the problem. As the saying went, the best defense was offense. He should strike when the enemy was weak. He should take the initiative to destroy the Singapore Chinese society and kill Wang Chongyan before the other party recovered. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.